Here we go. What's up, everybody? We are live. Thank you guys for tuning in. Everybody in the chat. I see a few people watching in Young Lion. You're on your time. You want to say what's up to anybody? Jake?
Kutisa Blue. I'm probably saying that wrong. But she said hi to you.
Say hi to me.
She said hi to
Hi.
you. She didn't say hi to me.
Who else?
Simone.
Simone's in there.
What up, Mo?
Yuri. We got
Oh, you're terrible at this.
Shaniqua.
Okay.
Never did this before.
Appreciate you guys for watching. It's Tuesday night. This is the first time I give him some responsibility. We're gonna get the conversation going. We got a good guest in the building tonight. It's gonna be a fun one. You're watching Young Lion TV. Let's go.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, won't you get up and stop fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding.
All right. We're live. It's Tuesday night. We're good. He had auto live still off, right? Yep. All right, we're live. It's Tuesday night. True Sound Studios. We're in Camden, New Jersey, as always. And we're going to have some conversation. We just got back from our little warm weather tour, which was cool. Now we're back in the cold weather. I got my brother with me. I got my other brother, my half Indian, half black brother. And, of course, Rachel Rhoda holding it down on the ones and twos. Mr. Simone Chang couldn't be here. He had some family stuff to take care of, so our prayers go out to him and his wife and their family at this time right now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But we want to introduce our guest this evening. We're going to have some conversation. One of our favorite topics is about food and food health and enjoying food and everything food. Every time we travel, everyone knows that all of our posts are about finding the best food wherever we go. So we got a personal chef in the building. And he's got a great story. I want everybody to welcome Mr. Jason Moss.
All right.
You go by Jay or Jason?
Hey, man, as long as you check.
All right, let's point that mic at him and make sure you get right up on that.
Yeah?
Yeah. Make sure you
All right,
hear it nice and clear. So let's start talking about how you got into food in the first place. Like
Professional? Well, so
your journey into the love of food.
So like many people, my mom was a great cook. She was always in the kitchen. She's from Newport News, Virginia, so that backbone of food was always important. Some of my fondest memories were with her in the kitchen. We'd be up late nights cooking for company and stuff like that, and sharing laughs and all that kind of good stuff.
What type of stuff were you guys cooking?
So it's interesting because like I said, my mom was from the South, but she had a very eclectic palate. So it would be a mixture of all kinds of things. I think that's where I got my love of diverse kinds of food from that. She never really said, "Oh, we're going to do this or this." That's just how she
just
rocked,
always had that in her.
Yeah. So that's where I got that from. But professionally, I got into cooking because of Air Jordans.
Air Jordans.
So here's the story. So we're all about the same age.
Yeah.
When Air Jordans came out, like $75 for a pair of sneakers. You come home, $75 for a pair of sneakers.
Right.
Pops wasn't having it, right?
Right.
So I don't know, it was 2 weeks, 2 days. I forget the amount of time, but he's like, "Yo, let's go." So I figured, we're getting in the car. I'm getting myself some Jordans, right? Took me about 5 blocks up to the local Holiday Inn. Took me in, front desk. I'll never forget. He says, "My son needs a job." He got a job as a dishwasher.
Wow.
Right.
Ever since. So
Wow. Okay.
That's crazy. So you first started in the back end.
Right.
yeah, I was a dishwasher.
Right.
And I liked it. And about, I would say maybe 4 or 5 months, I was running the line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you wanted a pair of Jordans. Your dad said, "Go get that job."
Right. Got that job.
No, that's proper parenting.
No,
right
for
there.
real. That's
You know what I'm saying?
No
Like,
doubt. No
He
doubt.
didn't gas you up or nothing.
No.
He said, "Oh yeah, we're going to get them Jordans."
Yeah, right.
The long way.
I tell you what, though, I had bought my first car and had my insurance for the year paid before my license even came through.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a valuable lesson.
No doubt,
You
no
already
doubt.
learned
No
how
doubt.
to earn money and work hard for something that you wanted instead of just whining and getting something
getting
that you
hands out,
wanted.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Now, what was your ethnicity? I know this is gonna sound weird, but like, what was your mom's ethnicity? Like, what was
Oh, she was regular
African American?
Yeah, African American.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's mostly southern.
Southern black.
Southern style.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
okay.
I mean, she traveled a lot. She, like I said, she was born in Newport News, but then she moved to Allentown, and then she went to NYU.
Okay.
So
Where do you think she got her? You saying she introduced you to like an array of food. Like, where do you think she got her?
from traveling.
Okay,
from
so she
her-
was
from
open.
Her, yes, her
Okay,
own life
okay.
She
experience.
experienced
yeah.
other cultures.
Right,
yes,
right,
yes.
Because we find that a lot, especially us, because we travel a lot too.
Right.
But we find that a lot of the people that we work with and travel with, they're so close-minded food-wise that it's like you see it in the upbringing.
Yes.
and I feel like in our community, especially in the black community,
Yes.
that there's a very like closed-mindedness
So-
to trying food.
Yeah, touch on that. 'Cause I want to hear your take
so
on
it's
that.
it's interesting because the majority of my clientele is not of color, and it's funny because part of my service is I teach people how to cook.
Right.
I was with a client this past weekend, and I introduced her to spice. Like some sazon,
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
adobo. She's like, "Oh my God, what is this?" It's called flavor.
Right.
But no, it's challenging because it is a very meat is very, very well done. This has to be this way. This has to
Right.
be this way, and they don't want to.
They don't step outside their box. that much.
yeah.
That's
It's
been our
like-
experience.
I always say the ones who don't know how to swim.
Yeah, are the ones that don't like other foods.
But do you think it's exposure though? Like
It
maybe
is
because
exposure.
they grew up eating for a long time.
Yeah.
Certain communities
That's what I think
only
it
could
is.
afford.
Well,
know?
it's that, and I think it's also we've been programmed to stay in our box.
That is true.
You know what I
That
mean?
is true.
We've been programmed to stay in our and we've been so well indoctrinated to stay that way that we police ourselves.
Or and each other.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
make fun of
What-
somebody
yeah,
for
what are
trying
you-
something
what are you
different.
doing?
Yeah,
So quick story. My mother, she's a speech pathologist. Okay, so proper English was always important in our household. You didn't speak properly. You know what I mean? That's not
Right.
You know what I mean?
so you had to do that in the street. You had to sneak and do it around your
No,
friends.
but like this is how. So I've always been to myself kind of person.
Okay.
So when I would go out, whatever, I talk the way I talk, and I'm like, why are you talking white?
You talking white?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I never knew that speaking properly
Right,
was
right,
talking.
right,
You know,
right.
and with same thing with the food, and the
Right,
culture. If you
right,
don't act
right.
a certain way,
Right.
or if you don't do a certain thing, like growing up, I
Where
was.
you're not accepted.
Right, growing
Right.
up, I was
Right.
into punk rock music, and I love all kinds of music.
Right.
You're like, why are you listening to white boy music? It's like, do you understand that we started this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The roots of this thing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Like
Yeah.
one of the first punk bands was a black group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
blacks have been so we do it to ourselves.
Right. Yeah, we definitely do it to ourselves. But I think that slowly it's starting to open up a little bit.
It is, and as we were talking earlier, it's because of stuff like this, because of formats like this. We're leveling the playing field, and we're realizing that we can compete and we can have our own voice and do our own thing.
Right.
Yeah, I want to show this video that I just shared with you, Rachel. This was from our experience in the Bahamas. I want to show like the process of going to like the street food vendor and getting some fresh conch salad.
But can I say something before she does that?
Yeah.
There's a difference though. When you guys go someplace,
Yeah.
you're not looking for chained restaurants, chained food.
We want the
You're-
opposite.
Yeah, you're asking the driver, hey, what do you eat?
Where
Yeah.
the locals eat.
So
Yeah.
he immediately, because he's programmed to not even, because he's like KFC, McDonald's, that.
Not only
What-
that, we're on a resort, so
Right.
it's like they got 5-star restaurants all throughout that joint.
So he doesn't even think you want
He
that.
doesn't think he thinks we're good there. You know what I
Right.
mean? So when we tell him like we don't want that food, you know what I mean? Where's the
Right.
and I said like where can I get some fresh conch like right out the
So you
shelf?
already surprised them.
And he's like, oh, I know exactly.
He gets all excited.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
So he takes us to this place they call the Fish Fry.
Okay.
And it's literally like this area where there's restaurants and there's also street vendors and they're all in this one space.
Okay.
And you just go there and you can spend money. And what's up, Rach?
Desktop isn't working.
Oh, desktop presenter's not working? Well, that sucks.
Can we pantomime it?
Yeah, it was basically a video of like
Just keep talking. Give me a minute.
it was basically a video of we go there and the dude right in front of you, he pulls out the shell. You ever see a conch? You've seen a conch shell. Like most people haven't seen it. It's that giant like pink shell
The
that
one
you
that
see
they blow into.
In all the movies.
Saltwater snail.
They don't realize that there's a
It's huge
giant
muscle
snail
that's
in
in
there.
there. Yeah.
Giant snail. And so he cracks it open and pulls the snail out. And the first thing he does is he's like takes the little piston off. And he's like, this'll
Manpower.
This will make you have strong children. He said something like that.
Yeah.
So the driver eats that right away.
Right.
And then so he takes that and he starts cutting up the fresh vegetables right there, onions, tomatoes, and peppers, and some
gotta have
hot
the peppers,
peppers,
and some lime juice.
lime juice
yeah.
and orange. There we go. We can watch it now, so you can see the whole deal.
What is it? I have regular kerosene. I have 6
That's a serious knife.
That's a machete right there.
Yo, my man's not playing.
But see, when you look at just look at the whole setup, most people will walk into that and be like, ugh, it just doesn't look sanitary.
Nah, see, I would get down on something like that.
He's using one glove. Look, that's the conch shell there.
Yeah.
So he's gonna crack it open.
Yeah. When they do that, they it's a suction that holds it in.
Right.
Yes.
Get the piston. Oh, you don't want to try it? Try it. It's a good one, man.
What's that?
If you want more baby tonight, you can make that.
So the driver, that was our driver. He ate it. But look at the sink. Look at the whole setup.
Right.
That's the problem. Like in this country, I think so many people are hung up on
We're spoiled. We don't understand how good we have it. We
Right.
just take it for granted that that's how it is everywhere.
And it's also an illusion of cleanliness. You know what I mean? So that's the raw snail out of the shell right there. He's just cutting it up. I'm going to mix it in with all the little veggies that he chopped up. But yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, I'm hungry as hell.
So what was the taste for you?
It was amazing, man.
Yeah.
It was so fresh.
Right.
Like,
Sweet.
it was
Like a scallop, right?
Yeah,
Conch was-
it was like
I
a
thought it was
really,
better than
really,
scallop.
really
Okay.
sweet scallop, but a little like less fishy than a scallop. Even it didn't taste like seafood. It just tasted like it just tasted good, man. Like I can't even. I've had conch before, but I've never had it that fresh.
Right.
So it was really good. I was surprised. But the whole time I'm thinking like, yo, people would not eat this. Like,
Right.
just because like I said, that false illusion of cleanliness in the States, where it's like you go to a restaurant and where you're sitting looks so clean, but they can't see what's going on in the kitchen.
I tell people, the average American, if you knew what happened in the kitchen, if you knew how much sweat you ate,
Right.
if you listen
At a restaurant, right.
If it's over 75 degrees outside,
Yeah.
you're eating sweat when you're in
Right.
a restaurant.
Wow.
There's no two ways around it. I'm sorry.
I remember I saw some like
Seasoning.
yo, it's extra salt.
Hey, man.
I remember I saw some expose about all of the restaurants on South Street, and they went through all of them like late at night, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. They were shining flashlights in there, and there was rats everywhere, just because
It's a
no
big
one's
city,
in there.
yeah.
Right.
So the rats are just like running all over the food, running
Yeah,
all
man.
over that's what you're eating. Like you
Yeah,
don't think about it. You think, oh, I'm going to the standards, sanitization is higher here, but it's really an illusion.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I've only worked in my 20-some years. I've only worked in one kitchen where the chef made us scrub the kitchen in the beginning of the shift. Every kitchen chef scrubs it at the end,
Right.
But he made us scrub it in the beginning before we started. That was only
that's
one.
a good practice
Yeah,
because
for real.
there is mice running
Yeah,
around
yeah,
at
yeah,
night.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
no doubt.
Roaches, all kind of stuff. Like you can't avoid that, especially
Yeah.
in the city.
Right.
You know, so I think it's funny. Plus, a lot of people. I think people's idea of avoiding all of these, like keeping everything so sanitized all the time, is what has weakened our immune systems in a way.
Right.
Because people didn't live that way for centuries.
No, and we were fine.
Yeah.
It's just, excuse me. It's just like our diet. You know, we think we can't eat this, we can't eat that. You know, you look at these farmers who would eat like half a pound of bacon and 6 eggs and butter and milk, and they go out and work for 15 hours in the field and live to 105. It's just like,
Right.
our lifestyle has changed.
Right. Absolutely.
But something like that, like you can't get any fresher than that. Like it's right out of the shell. It's not even cooked. Hasn't touched a flame.
And it has to stay like that, because if American marketing, or just marketing in general, just not necessarily American, if they get their hands on that, they'll prepackage that.
Right.
That'll be processed. There'll be all sorts of
Preservatives.
fillers, and
Yeah.
it has to stay like that
Right.
in order for you to have that authentic experience. Because you would taste the updated version and say, "This is not what
Right.
You can't package that and sell it at whatever store." You know
Right.
what I mean?
And
Yeah,
it's just like when we were in Trinidad, like the same thing, getting that agouti like right from the bush,
Yeah.
skinning it, killing
Yeah.
it, cooking it with coconut milk right from the tree,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
that. There's nothing like
Right,
that.
right.
Nothing like that.
It's a completely organic experience.
Right.
And that's probably what honestly, to be honest, part of it is we don't really care what's happening back there. Can you just bring it to me?
Right.
You know, that's what it is.
Yeah, people.
That guy's excited to show you that process.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the thing. Like food is such an amazing thing in that way. And I was thinking about like when I post that, I'm gonna put something about how like, friendships can be made just by sharing food with other cultures. But then like the concept of like I don't want to try your food can build these weird walls.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I told you that before. I had a friend of mine who he would invite me. I would eat his stuff. And one day I said, "Hey man, I'm cooking some curry chicken. Excuse me. Do you want some?" And he said, man, I don't do the curry. I said, and I felt a certain
Right,
way about
right.
it.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been trying your food and you don't want to even give this a shot?
I know
Yeah,
a
but
lot
that's my
of
food.
a lot of cultures probably feel that way about
Right.
Americans and foreigners because they come to
Right.
their countries and they just like, no, stay away from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like this weird concept of like, we don't want to try your stuff.
I mean, in general, I think that when it comes to a lot of things, but especially eating, Americans are very, very uneducated.
Yeah.
If you look on the East Coast, most Americans on the East Coast haven't traveled west of the Mississippi.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Most of the people in this country haven't seen coast to coast.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
They don't really eat outside their comfort zone. You know.
Yeah, because in the South is a different palate.
So here's the thing: if you think about it, there's one, but except for that one food, there's really no American food.
Right.
Right.
What's the one?
Africa or food down south, Southern food.
Oh, Southern
Because if
food,
you
yeah.
think about it, that is the only food that originated in this country that had no other kind of,
But don't you
Connection.
even think some of that was steeped from Africa though?
some of it, but we were so like far removed from those ingredients and all those things that it was truly an American food. Like
Right.
it wasn't Italian, it wasn't
Yeah.
Portuguese, it wasn't this. It was American food. That was the first true American
Right,
food.
right.
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 I think a lot of that was taken like the concepts that they remembered from
Yeah.
the things they cooked, and then they had
to an extent. I mean, you look at things like hoe cakes. You know what hoe cakes are?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the field, a lot of times the slaves all they had was some water and some flour. So they would take some straw and make a fire under the hoe, and they would make little cakes. So that's kind of like flatbread from back
Right.
in Africa and stuff like
Right.
that. But you think of the things we did like with the pork and the chicken and stuff like that. That was all stuff here. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the gumbos and the okras and stuff like that. Yeah, that was stuff we did back in Africa.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was truly just the things and ingredients.
Or they
that-
do it completely different. In
Yeah.
Africa.
Right.
It's
It's an
similar.
adaptation of
Yeah,
it.
because
a
in
way,
Trinidad
yeah.
we have similar to soul food, but it's
Right.
not exactly the same.
Right.
So
Now,
you
have
don't
you
consider
traveled?
you don't consider burgers in American food?
No. That's a derivation of certain things like a terrine, like your pates and things of that nature,
Right.
and meat pies. Many cultures have meat pies.
Yeah.
Almost every culture has a meat pie.
Yep.
Yeah. That's true.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
A hot
interesting.
dog is a frankfurter. That's a
No,
sausage.
that's definitely not
You know what I
American.
mean?
Yeah.
Grits.
Grits,
No, that's definitely
no.
That's African too.
That's African. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Matter of fact,
Green?
I ate grits in the Bahamas. They eat
Yeah.
grits with something they call stewed fish, which is like a red snapper
Mm-hmm.
with like a gravy, and then they give you grits with it. That's their breakfast.
And on that too, like Americans are when we talk about this before, we're the only country that we can pick and choose what we eat. Almost every other culture has a fish head soup.
Yeah.
You give fish heads to an American, they look at you like you're crazy.
Bro,
right.
when the fish came out, well, one of the I should have sent you that video too, because our drummer, he's one of those closed-minded people,
Right.
And me and Moon were sitting there. We ordered the fish, and it came out, and the heads on it with the eyes and everything, and
People,
we
they
eat all
freak
that.
out. Oh,
We
yeah,
eat all
yeah.
that. So he looked at that like, because he ordered eggs and bacon.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you can get that anywhere. Like,
Right.
why? But to him, he said, but I wanted breakfast. I'm like, this is breakfast for them.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, like they don't understand that we're the only culture that eats this way. Like you go
Right.
to Japan, breakfast is miso soup and fish.
I love it that
Yeah.
people think that that's breakfast. Like
Right.
that's the
Right.
only thing that
Right.
equates to breakfast.
Yeah.
It's
That's
so
also
weird
hard to break though. That's like a lifetime of eating that.
It is, but you just have to like just break down the logic to them. I remember one time we went somewhere and I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna order some chicken." They're like, "You can't eat chicken for breakfast." I'm like, "But you can eat the chicken's babies for breakfast."
Right. Yeah.
Like, how does that make any sense to
Right.
you?
Right.
We're the epitome of xenophobia. We think
Yeah.
that what we do is the way it should be done.
But I feel like every culture has that. Every culture has, because even with y'all, let's be real. Like
Yeah.
there's certain times like, because this is my brother-in-law. I'm
Yeah.
married to his sister. So like when they cook certain things,
Yeah.
there's rules
There's
that I
rules.
don't know
Yeah.
that I'll break, and they'll be like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't eat that with this." You know.
That's funny because
That's true.
Like I like to cook different cultural food, but I won't cook that food for that person.
Right,
Like
because
I would
you know.
never cook
Yeah.
Trinidadian food
Right.
Yeah, right.
for your mom.
Right.
No, I mean I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Or I would never cook Puerto Rican food
Yeah.
for a Puerto Rican grandmother
Right.
because to me that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
your culture.
Yeah.
And
You
they
know
don't
what I
want
mean?
to see your adaptation of
Right.
it.
No,
Right,
they
right,
don't.
right.
They want it
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
authentic as
That's
possible.
true.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
And for us, you're right. It's not even, it's more the mental thing.
Right.
We've been doing it for so long that you can't.
But yeah, it's not even like it's so subtle. Like for Christmas time, for example, they'll make curry chicken, stewed chicken. They'll make roti. They'll make beans. You know, and then callaloo and macaroni and cheese. Right, macaroni pie they call it.
Right.
But you can't eat the curry chicken on the same plate with the beans and the callaloo and the macaroni pie. That all goes together with the stewed chicken.
Right.
The curry chicken goes with the roti and the chana. And it's like I put it all on one plate.
All right.
And I'm like, y'all are crazy.
She's breaking the rules.
I'm hungry.
Now I gotta ask you a question. Have you traveled outside the United States?
Not really.
Okay.
What the knowledge I have is from working with different ethnicities.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time working in Asian restaurants.
Okay.
A lot of time working, with different cultures. And like when you travel, I want to know what you eat.
Right.
So
Okay.
I got taught that way.
Right.
I read a lot.
Okay.
So I try to travel.
But if there was a country you can go, like a foodtopia, where would you could pick one country to go to? Like
That's
this is
so tough, man.
this is no, because I want to see what he says.
So that couple things I want to talk. I'll answer that in a second, but I want to talk about what you were saying about not sharing the food because food is that thing, man.
It is.
Food is that like
Yeah.
You know
Of
what I
course.
mean? Like that's that unifier. When you break bread with somebody, you
Yeah.
really you can't
There's
know
a spiritual thing
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
right. You can't really truly know somebody until you sit down and
Right, right.
share a meal with them. So
Right.
I think that's very important.
And watch the process too. It's
Yeah.
not just eating;
Yeah.
it's the cooking of everything, how
Yes.
it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember distinctively in Trinidad. I used to look forward to. Am I in the shot?
No, you're good.
When we would have these family gatherings, we would see the animals being killed.
Yeah.
We would see the cleaning of it.
Americans can't handle that.
Right.
All of it. It was a process.
Right.
But it
From the mo-
connects you. I think
It does.
they
It does
could.
connect. It does.
I think they could handle it. It's just a matter of bringing it back
Right.
in front of them. But that whole concept of I can't eat chicken with bones in it is just
Oh, they can't eat meat with bones. I never understood that. Oh, it's got bones. I can't. How can you not?
Right.
So, to answer your question, so I get this all the time. What's your favorite food, or what's your style of cooking? So that's like asking me to pick my favorite kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was
All right.
thinking the
Right,
same
right,
thing.
right,
I was
okay.
thinking
That's like I always tell people. So I want you to pick your favorite sunset or
Right.
your favorite snowflake.
Right.
your favorite
Right.
It's
song.
too broad. It's too broad.
It's not too broad. I haven't experienced it yet.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
and not
the-
only that, there's different foods for different experiences,
Mm-hmm.
different emotions, different feelings that you're in, different moods you're in.
Even bringing it down more than that, like,
What's this? Oh, this is his Instagram page. Oh, nice.
Oh, that's some old. That's old right there. It's a real old dish. But so, there's a point in time, and you said you're a craftsman.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a point in time that you go from what you do to what you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? And cooking is what I am.
Right.
Right.
So to say what's my favorite dish or where would I like to go, I you know what I mean? Anywhere I go, I would be enthralled.
Right.
Anywhere I go would be like, wow,
A
this
new
is the best.
adventure.
Yeah, you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
Like every dish I make, I very rarely make the same thing twice.
We talk about that all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
About our cooking style is like it'll never be duplicated again.
Yeah,
because
you
it's
know?
always just like wing it. And,
Yeah, like my favorite thing is it's called chop now, but back in the day we used to call it a brown bag challenge, where you just get a bunch of ingredients that you don't know what they are, and you have to go at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man,
Okay.
that's to
I
me,
love
that's
that.
cooking.
I used to
yeah.
be obsessed with that show.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now follow-up question is there something you won't eat?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
no,
That's rare.
That is rare.
That is rare.
no.
That is rare.
I mean, I'll at least try something once.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because how do you know if you don't like it if you don't eat it?
That's true.
That's like life. How do you know you don't like something if you don't try
right,
it?
Right. I think for me, the thing that I had a client who was Filipino, and I went to a Pacquiao fight. And I didn't realize how this thing is like a religious moment for them.
Yeah.
And we got there, and they had something called balut, which is like fully fertilized
Yeah, the
duck
egg.
egg. Yes.
the duck egg. Yeah.
And
But you tried it though.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. But I realized it was purely the visual.
Yeah.
Because when you taste it,
It's not bad.
it's not bad.
It's just
salty.
the idea
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Because it's vinegar. They have the vinegar.
Yeah.
And then they had the pig ears with the blood and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's all visual,
Right.
Because if I'm looking at it, I'm like, something doesn't feel right about it.
Yeah, Asians eat some stuff.
Yeah.
They do, man.
Asians eat some
Out of
stuff.
all cultures,
Right.
they go the furthest. man.
But if you can get past that like first thing, like yeah,
Right,
man.
right.
I remember the first time I had lobster brains and scrambled eggs. Like, what is that, lobster brains? All right, it was good.
was it good?
Oh, yeah,
I've never had it.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's that right there?
That's the book.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I was. My dad said no.
Yeah, but even that, I remember Simone's mom. Simone is the other guy who's not here right now. He's Cambodian,
Yeah.
and his mom. Sometimes, like if we cook something, or if he cooks something that's traditional, and he flips it, or like does something different, she's like, "You can't do that,"
Right,
you know.
right.
So I feel like every culture has
Yeah,
their
they do.
their level of like their box that they try to stay in, you know.
But the thing about that is you're talking about cultures that have been doing this for centuries. You know what I mean? Whereas we just Applebee's and
Right.
Right.
Olive Garden.
I think that's trend is changing though. A lot of those chains are starting to like
Yeah.
die
I think.
off.
Yeah.
People are starting to look for the more independent
Yeah,
hipster
yeah.
type of.
They're a little
vibe.
braver. I
Yeah.
think so.
Food trucks became a huge thing for a while because
Yeah.
they were doing something different.
And those shows, Anthony Bourdain, Zimmerman.
Yeah.
I think people started looking through the lens of the camera and kind of seeing people trying.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be
Yeah,
there now.
especially Anthony Bourdain because he was.
So Anthony Bourdain, that's very interesting. So I grew up on cooking shows. I grew up on PBS. Justin Wilson, Martin Yan, Jacques Pepin. All those. Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart's a rock star, by the way. I don't know if you know her story.
I never.
I don't know if you know her story.
I
She's a
don't.
gangster.
Really?
She's a
That's
gangster.
why
yeah.
she did time.
Listen, like a champ.
Yeah,
She took it like a
right.
G. Anyways, but Anthony Bourdain is the reason I like him. He's real.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's like.
Right. And I think for him, what made him so interesting, it wasn't just the cooking was there, but he was really having a conversation.
Yeah.
He brought in the element of I want to know you.
Right.
Like okay, the roasting of chicken is cool,
Right.
but tell me about your culture. I
And
think,
his journalistic standpoint,
Yes,
like the way he
yes.
would write these long monologues and talk
Right.
about the
It's
culture.
articulate. Yeah.
It was different. It
Yeah.
exposed people to a culture that they normally wouldn't have been exposed to in a
And
way.
you're missing out on so much by you just watching the pig or whatever.
Right.
You're missing out on so much more than just that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like when he did Trinidad, he talked about, he went and and
Yeah.
went to the Syrian community and talked about how they were taking over, you
Right,
know,
right.
in those rich developments.
Right,
he went to
right.
the poor communities. He went to
that's
Tobago.
right.
Yeah.
He was willing. He wanted to go to the mansion, but he wanted to
Right.
go to the hut.
Right.
And that was so
Yeah,
interesting.
no, he was real. He was real,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always respected him as a chef.
Yeah, I love that show, man.
Yeah. So I think people watch those things because when I came in 1995, chain restaurants were at their peak. We
Yeah.
talk about this all the time. You walk in and you would see the hostess with the million buttons.
The 50
Fridays.
pieces, the 50 pieces of flair.
Fridays, yeah, 50 please.
There was boats. There was
So what are you saying,
gloves.
Chef 15? No.
It was even you look at the decor of the restaurant has changed because Applebee's was you'd walk in and there would be like all sorts of paraphernalia everywhere. They're trying to distract you from how terrible the food is. Just look at everything else, you know. And now it's not like that.
I
anymore.
don't. I can't. I don't.
You don't step foot in those places.
Nah, I don't. I don't eat out much.
Yeah,
I really don't.
really?
No.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is eat out. But I'm like always trying to search for new and better
Right.
places.
Same here. If I do eat out, it's going to be something off the beaten track
Yeah.
and something
Yeah.
that I heard about that I want to try.
Right,
There's this
right.
place by me that was one of the most unique combos that I've seen in a while. Where this lady opened up a restaurant. Her grandfather was from India, and then he fled there and ended up in the Himalayan mountain somewhere
Oh,
in China.
wow. Okay.
So he married a Chinese woman.
Okay.
And then they started developing these foods with the combination of those two.
Indian and Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be crazy.
So
Yeah.
it's called Mount Masala.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
so
have to check that out. Where's that at?
It's in Voorhees.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so their whole cuisine is based off of those two flavor combinations.
I have a strong Indian influence in my cooking as far as like the Ayurvedic, the food healing yourself type thing. So yeah, I get down on some Indian food.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
Indian is one of my favorites.
My
yeah.
mother's from her ancestry is from India.
Yeah.
So I grew up on curries and all these different kind of things. So I love it. And it's funny because like when I was talking to her about that, she was like looking at me because I look like a black dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was like, "How do you know this?"
Yeah.
I'm familiar, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see whatever countries or culture border each other. There's a union
Yeah.
of cuisines,
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
That
that's what when you look at Thai food and Cambodian food, like it's like the melding of those two cultures.
Right there.
Yeah,
And I think it's the best of both worlds.
It
you
is.
know?
And like if you look at Vietnamese, it's a combination of Asian and French, which
Right.
is a
Yeah.
really weird combination.
because France came down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you got like the
But even-
bonghe, which is on a baguette. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
right. Yeah.
Cambodian.
Cambodia
have some
too.
of
Yeah,
that.
they have
Right.
some what's it called that Mom makes all the time? Bun chow,
Bun
which
chow,
is like
yeah,
a
yep,
crepe
yep,
thing.
mhm.
Yeah. So and you think about it, where would they get crepes from? You know?
Right.
But
So they take it and they kind of.
it becomes their own thing.
That's what
They make it better.
That's what Jamie does. Jamie takes. I have an idea that Jamie's gonna open a food truck and whatever he cooks, he's gonna be that ethnicity that day.
Yeah. I have costumes. Yeah.
I always say I wanted to open a Vietnamese place and have a cross between Vietnamese and soul food.
Yo,
And
that
call
would
it
be
Wow.
faux sure.
for sure. For sure. For sure.
Wow.
Or it could be a Vietnamese and Italian and
There
forget
was-
about it.
There was a place called For Show.
Was
Faux
it a
show?
pho? Was it a
Yeah.
pho place?
Yeah.
Wow.
In
Yeah.
Philly.
Yeah.
Right.
Closed down though. But
Yeah. There's some good places around here. Some good different ethnic food. Not a lot of Thai. I haven't found any really good Thai places, but
There's a couple good Thai places out where I live. I love Thai food.
Right.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. But one thing Americans do really good is burgers. Like you can't go. I went to Trinidad. I had a burger, and it was like,
Steaks,
what?
burgers,
So-
What convinced me?
Nah,
Who does the best burger?
that's a tough one, man.
Because I've been places and I have had burgers.
You can mess up a burger.
You can, man.
You can mess up a
You
burger.
can.
Yeah.
Like I'm very picky about my burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I like it nice ground meat. You know, medium rare.
Yeah.
Just a little salt and pepper.
Right.
Right.
Lettuce and tomato and some bacon. That's it.
Nothing
That's
crazy.
a burger.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, I
right.
need cheese on mine.
Nah.
And I think too, I think Americans and Italians have a better understanding of the different cuts of meat that what make the patty so good. Like I went to a Dominican restaurant with my wife, and I ordered a steak, and it was, you could tell this is not choice cuts. This
Yeah.
is like whatever they could buy, the cheapest of the cheap. It wasn't a good cut of meat.
Yeah.
You're chewing this thing like compared to going to like an actual butcher shop, and you're getting like ribeye and loins and stuff like that. You know.
So that's the thing, though, too. Though when you have cultures, again, back to the Asian cultures, you know, our culture is the only culture that really uses prime cuts of meat.
Right.
In most other cultures, the cuts that we throw away or this called the second cuts, those are the cuts that most people use. And in turn, they're very well seasoned.
Right,
They're
right,
brined.
right.
They're marinated.
They cook a lot longer
Yeah,
too.
they cook
Pressure
a lot longer.
cooked.
Right,
Or they
right.
cook very quickly.
Right.
You look at the Japanese shabu shabu where you're
Yeah.
cooking it on the broth and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Right.
Because they are
The cheaper cuts.
the cheaper cuts,
Right,
but
right,
they
right.
can be much more flavorful if you know how to do it. I prefer, I think a filet mignon is overrated.
Me too.
I'll never waste money on a
Yeah,
filet
I've
mignon.
I agree with
always
that.
felt that
Yeah.
way.
I agree with that.
I've
I think it's
always felt
because
that.
maybe the
There's no
tenderness,
fat.
right?
There's no fat. Well, yeah, it's considered because where it's positioned in the body, it doesn't get a lot of movement, so
It's
it's
the
tender.
most unused muscle, yeah.
Because you think about back in the day in this Europe, when cuisine first came around, or so they said, European cuisine first came around, the Chateaubriand, that's the center cut of the filet. That was the house cut. That was the
Okay.
Chateau cut. And that's, if you know what a filet looks like,
Yep.
you have the head, you have the tail, and then you have that middle
That
piece.
middle piece,
And
yeah.
that was the prize, but there's no fat there.
Yeah.
So that's where you got, like, say, the beef Wellingtons, where they would wrap it in puff pastry and
Not a
a
fan.
mushroom duxelle, because they had it put flavor back into
Yeah,
it.
right.
Right.
Everybody's so, French food. Seriously, because
Listen, I've always said that only thing French people are good for is some sauces.
but that's the thing, and they were good at sauces because
Yeah.
their meat was shit. The meat was bad. No, it was.
Yeah,
because they didn't have
They had-
refrigeration.
so they
because
had
they
to-
had crap meat.
they had to cover it in sauces.
Yeah, they had to
yeah.
cover it with sauces. Think about it. If you have a Béarnaise sauce, you all know what a Béarnaise sauce
Yeah.
is. What are you tasting?
You're tasting the sauce.
You're tasting the Béarnaise sauce.
Right, right, right.
Same thing, hollandaise.
Hollandaise, all of that. So
Yeah.
you're putting a Béarnaise sauce on a $40 filet. What are you tasting?
Right, the sauce.
Right.
sauce.
Right.
It's going to overpower the
Right.
meat. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you look at you look at other cultures like Asian cultures and African cultures, any other culture, you taste the food. Even like a dish like a curry, like a curry stew.
Yeah.
You're tasting, if it's done correctly, you're tasting so many intricate flavors. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
You really are.
It's,
Yeah.
I've always said that a well-seasoned dish should be like the chorus line in a musical. Okay, we've all been, and you're musicians, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So you don't hear one particular voice.
Right.
It's a harmonious thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they all go together.
Right.
So you can have a dish that's garlicky, but it shouldn't scream garlic.
Right.
Or you have a dish that's spicy, but you get all the other flavors, and
Right.
just as it's going down, you're getting that little bit of heat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas that kind of food is clunky. It's like Béarnaise sauce.
Right.
Right.
And it's like these amazing plating jobs, but like the food substance is not that. Like to me, it's overrated.
Yeah.
No,
I
see,
agree with that.
I appreciate the art, especially now with the very intricate plating. I do appreciate that. If everything
The
makes
food's
sense,
still gotta be good,
right?
though.
If the food has to make sense, it has to taste good, it has to be hot. I don't understand how some of these people putting out hot food with these plates the way they are.
You're
They're,
right.
they're beautiful, but the food doesn't look like it's going to be hot.
Right.
So I do applaud. There's definitely an art to that, but I think it's the art I look for is what happens in the mouth.
Right.
You know, the food has to be appeasing to the eye, definitely, because if it doesn't look good, you don't want to eat it. But it has to romance the whole body. You know, I believe that you cook for holistically, not only nutritious, not only to take care of your hunger, but to satisfy your whole body.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to ask you. We kind of talked about it a little bit beforehand because, you have the belief system that food is medicinal.
Correct.
Food is also for nourishment.
Correct.
What is your take, and how do you feel about how far we've gone into food being this decadent, like luxurious experience, where it's like these like when you watch, what's the show on Bravo?
I don't watch TV.
I can't remember it.
What's the show with the food judges?
Chopped?
Oh
No.
Top Chef.
Top Chef.
Okay.
Right.
Where they go in and they all make a meal, and then they go and critique like every little nuance of the
Right,
meal
right.
And tell them where they failed because this was not fluffy enough or that didn't have the right texture. It's like we've gone so far into the decadence of food that we've kind of lost touch of
We have
what
and,
the purpose is.
And if you look at things like how our moms cooked, you know what I mean? That food, I would say one of the books I want to write is about soul food. And not African American. I'm talking about whatever ethnicity you are. When you walk into your aunt's, your grandmother's house, and you smell that, whatever that dish is, it takes you back to when you were a kid. That's soul food, no matter what,
Right.
whatever. You look at those dishes, You know, they did something to your soul.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a chef knows how to do all of that as an artist, because a true chef is an artist. You know, your food should look good, it should be well balanced, it should taste good. And I think we've you know, it's just like everything else with the reality TV and this and that. It's all the show, and the needle is going so far this way. You know, it needs to be brought back kind of toward the middle a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So now let's get into a little bit. I want you to talk a little bit about your journey life-wise. Like, I was reading your bio and like your backstory and all of that. And I want you to go into that, like do a lot of people know about your weight loss and all of that?
Well, so, you know, people who follow me, they know, because I'm very open about my life for multiple reasons. Number one, I think that, you know, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it truly empowers you, because now you've laid all your cards on the table.
Yeah.
What do you got now? Right. So you got nothing to hold against. So that's number one. Number two, I think that, you know, I hope that, you know, some of the things that I've done can help others.
Right.
You know, who are going through certain things. And it's life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's
all live it.
That's how it is. So I think that the more, okay, for instance, I've been sober for 15 years, or 14, sorry. And I often get, oh, you're so brave, this and that. Like, I don't understand the stigma behind that. You know, like, you didn't want the person to be an active addict, but then there's a stigma when they're a recovering addict.
Right.
What do you want?
Right.
You know?
What's the stigma in your opinion? Like,
Oh, there's a big stigma about.
I would like you to speak on that.
There's
though.
a big, like, there's an embarrassment. People, there's a lot of people. So I'm doing an event this summer. It's called Soberfest. It's an outdoor festival for people in the sober lifestyle. You know, and one of the things is they're trying to bring awareness to it, because so many people are almost closeted about their recovery.
Wow.
You know, I've been in recovery for years, but I don't tell anybody, because it's, you know, that dirty family secret. Dude, it is what it is. Like, you know, I'm a believer that addiction is a disease, and I'm not saying that as an excuse. It's just like cancer is a disease, or diabetes is a disease. Addiction is a disease, but that's not an excuse. You have a choice on what lifestyle you choose. Just like you're a diabetic, you have a choice whether to eat certain things and to lose your foot. That's your choice.
Right.
It doesn't make it not a disease.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But it
same
makes
thing-
it a disease that's manageable if you choose to manage it. Right?
Correct. Same thing with addiction. It is a disease, but it's your choice to stay in your active addiction or to get help. And that's why I'm very open about my addiction. But we'll get into that later. So,
Do you think it can be cured?
no. And I will say that because the actual substance that you're addicted to, in my opinion, isn't the issue. So no, it can't be cured. What you need to change is your way of thinking. What were you trying to self-medicate with your active addiction? What pain and trauma did you suffer that caused you to go down that path? That's what needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? Like,
So that's the thing that needs to be cured.
that's the thing. I don't even know so much to be cured. It needs to be reevaluated. So I read a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and it talks about re-engineering your thought process, actually changing the way you think about yourself and the outside world. And you know, it said in that book that things like negativity becomes a genetic trait, because what happens is with anything, our brain, there's chemical releases. You know what I mean? Like, I could get addicted to doing this, and my brain gets the chemical gets released every time I squeeze that, and I want to keep doing that. So I have to, physically re-engineer my mind to stop that process. And that's like anything else with negativity, with this, with that.
Yeah.
So we need to just re-engineer the way we think.
So you're saying that the cause is greater than the effect. Finding out
Correct.
what the cause is.
Correct.
Okay.
In certain 12-step programs, they call that being a dry drunk, where you may not drink anymore, but you haven't worked on the causes. You know what I mean? You haven't worked on your behavioral traits. So you're still an addict. You're
Right.
still an active addict. You're just not using that. But you're still
You'll
doing
replace it with
right.
something else.
Because one of the reasons I say addiction is a disease, because most addicts have the same traits. Looking to get over on people, never taking responsibility for their actions. It's always somebody else's fault. Their problems aren't their problems. All of these things.
So it's kind of, they've internalized like being a victim
Correct.
and then
Correct.
projecting that.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So, and not until you take responsibility for your life.
Right.
I read someone. Not until you take 100% responsibility for your life can you change 100% of things in your life.
Right.
So
You got to own that. You got to own.
you got to own it.
and you got to.
Yeah, you got to own it. It's it's all your fault.
Right.
Right. Right.
Listen, we talk about that all the
Right.
time on here.
Right. Right. It's all your fault, but then we can really start getting into the cause.
Well,
Yes.
if you already have accepted that it's all your fault, then it becomes your responsibility to fix it.
Right.
You can't push it off on anyone else.
No.
So then it makes it simpler for you. It's
Right.
like, all right, let me fix this now.
Because no matter what the situation is, you are in 100% control of that situation. And people get upset when you say that. They're like, oh, what about this? What about that? What about that? Yes, you are
You're still in
100%
100%.
control. You might acquiesce your control at some
Right,
point,
Right.
but you are still in control of that situation.
Right.
One of the few things that you don't have control of is the day you die.
Right.
And sometimes that's even in your control. But besides that, just about everything in your life
Right.
is your control.
Absolutely.
I mean, only thing I would disagree is when you're a kid, and I guess you can have control over the way you process it. But like if I'm just saying, like if you get abused as a kid, it's really out of your control. Now,
Yes.
you know what I mean.
Yes.
Now, later on in life, it's how you process that. But
And it could be circumstances.
Trauma
too.
is a different thing. I think.
well, I mean, trauma is it's the thing that leads to a lot of addiction too, because
Yeah.
it has to do with being a victim. You know?
Right.
So
how
I
you
will
cope
I
with
will
it.
answer that, and I agree with you, but I will answer that statement with this. Yes, it's that is somewhat out of your control until the time that you realize that it's in your control.
Right. Right. Right.
And some people learn that at an earlier age than others.
That's true.
You know, some people never learn that, and some people learn that real young.
Right, right. And those people that don't learn that go on to continue in the destructive.
Correct.
And then they may end up doing it to somebody else.
It's not they do.
Right.
Because that's the only way they know. That's the only way they know. Because, it goes back to that whole chemical input. Your brain needs that chemical input to make it feel a certain way. Whether it's good or bad, that's where you feel comfortable. So when you try to change that, that's at first you get that like visceral reaction against it, because your body's going through withdrawal. It's
Right.
withdrawing from that chemical input that you felt so normal with. Whether it was positive or negative, it's not there anymore.
Right,
You know what I mean? So
right.
Speaking about that fruit,
Yeah.
eating that fruit,
Yeah.
the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, don't even get me started on that, because that's a whole other concept.
no, but
That's what
it's
it
about
is.
that choice.
Yeah.
And are you going to stay in that choice and that nature, or are you going to choose life? You're going to choose death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's so deep that we were talking about this, I think, last week, about how like that trauma, if you don't choose to come to the conclusion that you're talking about, it literally gets imprinted in your DNA and
It does, and passed on.
Yeah.
So let me answer your question. We'll continue.
Yeah.
So I started drinking heavily probably when I was 15, and got into the restaurant business, and that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? There, drinking is what you did after 10 a.m. Weed is not a drug. Cocaine, and it's not a matter of what drugs you did. Is
Right.
are you sharing?
Right.
You know what I
right.
mean?
It's part of the culture.
Right, and do you have enough?
Right.
So as long as you could do your job, they didn't care what you did. And if it made you work faster, that's all the better.
Sounds like the music business.
Yeah, same thing. So I got sober 2006 after my second DUI accident. I passed out and rolled my car over in major highway. Fortunately, no one was hurt.
Wow.
Because I always said to this day, I could have been getting sober in jail. You know, I could have
Right.
taken someone's life, or
Yeah.
even worse. And then in 2009, I found myself at about 300 pounds, and I just was ready for a change. You know, I'd been working the sobriety thing. Didn't really like where I was. You know, honestly, I was in my mid 30s, no car because of DUI, so wasn't driving. My second marriage had just, exploded. Imagine that, an alcoholic getting divorced. That never happens.
Right.
And I was living with my parents. You know what I mean? That's not, as a man or an adult, that's not a good place to be. You know what I mean? So I was at a very low spot. So the one thing I had control over was how I looked and my physical state. So I got into fitness. 2011, I competed in my first Spartan race. And I got hooked. I did that competitively for 7 years.
How did you have to train to get to the point where you could compete in that? Because those are
so
serious.
I did my first one. I did one in 2011, and then 2012 I did like 15. Traveling all over the country. So it wasn't until my last 2 seasons that I really started making some money and started winning some stuff. Yeah. But it was yeah.
So you got addicted to. Is that the wrong word?
No, I was addicted.
So what triggered? Like, you did it and you're like, I like this. I want.
You know what it was? The first thing, it was primal. It was, you're crawling through mud, climbing over stuff, and there's, especially back in the day, because it's changed a lot now because it's more popular and they had to water it down. But back then, you had a sign that was called a death waiver. There was a chance you weren't going to make it.
Right.
Yeah, right. It was raw.
Legit.
And you getting into it in your mid 30s.
Yeah.
That was serious. I know a lot of guys were probably younger than you.
And you abused your body too.
Yeah.
So it's like you really got some hurt.
Yeah. So when I retired in 17, 18, I forget, 2017 something, I was 4th in the country in my age group.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah,
so it gave you purpose.
Yeah, it did. So no matter how I finished, my last 2 seasons, no matter how I finished in the race, 1st, 4th, whatever, I was back in the gym that night. I was,
But it also showed you, it gave you a sense of accomplishment, right?
It did. Right.
So it was like you were like, I can do this.
Right. You felt like a god among men.
Right.
You really did.
You ever heard of David Goggins?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
So after that. So I was married during that time, and my wife and we both did that. She was very good as well. She ended up going to be a professional bodybuilder. So we got divorced, my 3rd marriage, and I got into ultra marathons. The stuff David got done. I haven't done a 100-mile yet. My longest distance to date is 40.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I got
40 miles.
I want to knock out a 50, and then I'm thinking about 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
what was that like? What was that like running 40 miles?
Long.
I'm saying, did you do a build up? Did you start with 5, 10?
Yeah, so I was always a runner. I love running. That's my meditation.
Did you do that in high school at all?
Dude, I didn't do anything until 2009, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked all through. I had 2 full-time jobs in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know what you were capable of.
No.
Wow.
No.
So this was you discovering that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm always trying to find something new. So what was that like? It was it's spiritual. It truly is spiritual. So we were talking earlier, my biological father, I met him twice, really never knew him, but I knew of him. He was he was in the health, he was a marathon runner, blah, blah. So it's funny, my first ultra marathon, anything over 30 miles is considered an ultra marathon. So I was running a 50K. And I'll never forget this. So I'm running, I'm doing my thing, and I looked, it was either a marker or I looked at my watch, whatever, and I realized I had passed the 26-mile mark. And it was funny because as I do in life, I never do anything in the right order. So I went from a half marathon, I was the furthest I ran, and I'm like, I'm gonna try 50K. Right. So I never did a full.
Right.
So I hit the 26 mark, and it just, I'm like, wow, it's the first time I ran a marathon distance, and it just clicked in my, all that emotion and that stuff. I just broke down in tears, man.
Wow.
Yeah, just
You
like
knew you could do it. Yeah.
no, it was like all the thoughts of like my father and
Yeah.
all
Oh, okay,
that,
I
you know,
gotcha.
all
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
All
right,
that
right.
stuff that I've been
Yeah.
holding in, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Because he had recently passed from prostate cancer, and I never really got that closure.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a very, so yeah, it's. I tell you what, the trip was the first overnight run I did. When you run through the night,
Yeah.
that's some stuff that really.
Right.
If you're not good up here, you
Yeah.
find out quick.
So you got
Right.
immersed in this world.
Oh, yeah.
And it became.
yeah, I don't do anything half.
Oh wow.
So the psychology of running that far, like there has to be moments where you're like, oh, I'm done, and then you just keep
Yes,
going.
yes. It's called I call it going dark, and everybody
Yeah.
happens. It happens to
It
everybody.
happens to everybody.
And yeah, my first attempt at a 50 miler, I DNF, did not finish.
Right.
That was one of the few times I've done that, and it was just mentally I wasn't there that day.
Wow.
You know, I got to mile 26, and I'm like, I don't have another 26 miles.
Yeah.
I felt good, legs felt good. I had plenty of gas in the tank. I just mentally I wasn't there.
Right.
And
Man.
I knew I had 26 miles to go
It's
in the dark.
amazing what
Yeah.
the body can do, though. Like if you go past that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too. Like so, you know, when you get, I always take it like 5 mile increments. You know, it's just a 5K, then it's just 5 miles, then it's just a half marathon, then it's just a marathon. And once I get to that halfway point, I always say, once I've run more than I have left. You know what I'm saying? I've reached
Yeah,
that point that
right.
I've already done the bulk
Yeah.
of it.
Might as well finish.
Yeah, then like it's
Right,
downhill
right,
after
right,
that.
right.
And then you can just like, you know.
Because you're mentally fighting yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, here, okay, you know what? A little bit more, and you
Yeah.
keep going.
Yo, listen, it hurts.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I even when I was doing the obstacle course racing, and I tell people this all the time, and this is anything in life, it hurts to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like to win,
Right.
you when they say you leave it all on you leave it all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah, like ultra marathons, that's even the novice like me. Like so, I ran my 40 in 12 hours, which is nothing great. You got guys doing 100 miles in 26 hours. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not talking flat. We're talking like Everest elevation.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's the
So-
stuff David Goggins is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was telling stories about his first 100 miles and like.
Well, he did that on the track, though. I think
He did that on the track,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
So
I
that's
remember he
what I'm
said
saying.
he got to a certain point where like his feet were he broke all the bones in his feet.
Yeah,
and,
stress
like,
fracture.
Yeah, and then like he was bleeding and like
Yeah.
I remember him saying like afterwards after it was done his whole body just shut down.
Yeah,
And then he
yeah.
was peeing black.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
black sludge.
Well, you were saying earlier about you had the flu symptoms from you know fatigue or whatever. I remember I did it. It was a 50K, and I hadn't trained for it. And when I was done, man, I was like, yeah, your body just
Your body just
Yeah,
like
man.
gives up on
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Man, it's crazy.
you don't walk for like it's
Right. I have a question for you. Going back to when you were a young man, aside from the influences of the restaurant, what do you think at that age caused you to make that turn? Like where you were in there, you saw like the alcohol or whatever it is. What happened? Like how did that happen for you? It was introduced to you, and what happened?
I mean, I was always rebellious.
Okay.
I was raised in a very conservative Christian household, and I was very rebellious.
Right,
you know?
right. Which is the root of anyone, right?
Yeah.
So because I feel like that's what it is. It starts somewhere, and you have to really uncover this. You have to go all the way back there and be like, what happened?
Yeah.
And that's why religion was probably restricting for you at the time, or
I don't think it was so much the religion; it was just the way I was raised.
Okay.
Just my parents' interpretation of it.
right, right.
I mean, because I have a very strong spiritual base. You know.
So you just felt that they were kind of, you wanted.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming them either. I mean, that was just the
No, no.
Yeah, that was just the situation.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, I think we all grew up in very religious households. You know, I think that foundation was a good thing.
Oh yeah.
But it's also something that we've all had our own ways of trying to make sense of other
Right,
things.
correct,
You know what I mean? And
correct.
it becomes another hurdle to.
Right.
Right. You have to make it your own, and however that
right.
looks to you at the time.
Earlier we were talking about men of color not talking. Do you think, speaking to the audience now, like, do you think had your dad talked? Did he talk to you?
So he was my My biological father or
No,
the man who raised me?
The man who raised you.
See, and that was the thing too. He did the best he could with
Right.
what he
What he-
had.
what he knew, okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because his father wasn't that touchy-feely guy.
right.
You know what I mean?
The men of that era.
Right. And then also too, you know, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with a blended family. You know, you can only love somebody's kid but so much. No, nothing wrong. I mean,
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
It is what it is.
It is what it is,
You're going to
yeah.
love your kid differently.
Then someone else.
Right, and I
yeah.
can't complain about it. That man did. I always say that he is the litmus test, the baseline of what I say a man is, as far as
Right,
responsibility,
right.
taking care of his family.
Absolutely.
I mean, he worked 2 jobs, so mom was home with us. You know what I mean? He was, in my opinion, he was a man.
Right.
You know, not a machete, but like, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Right.
He accepted responsibility.
correct. But he wasn't my dad.
Oh, right.
And no knock on him, but there's only so much love you can
There
give.
is a difference.
There is a
Yeah.
difference, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that was part of the divide.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, we grew up with the same type of situation.
Right.
But the only difference was we had a relationship with our dad.
Right.
So we were able to still get that from him.
Right.
You know, he was in our lives, so he still
Yeah.
took that role on. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Where we
Right.
weren't getting it there,
Right.
we were getting it from our dad.
Right. And I know, like I said, I've been married 3 times. I have 5 kids, and it's always. And we were talking about this earlier about people wanting credit for things they should be doing.
Right.
But no, it's always been very important for me. I've always said, you know, I broke up with the mom. I didn't break up with the kids. You know, I did what a dad's supposed to do.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like part of it too is at that time, a parent, because of maybe they're so strict, they're not having that conversation where they get to see the signs of this young man who's trying to do the right thing, but rebellion.
But here's the thing though too, and we talked about this earlier. You know, you can only work from. All right, so take a little back a little further. When after I got my 3rd divorce, you know, I had to take a look at myself and say, hey, look, you've been married 3 times. What the fuck's going on here?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a common denominator in this theme. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when we got, you know, when you break up a relationship, there's things said, you know, all the gloves come off and, you know, all the niceties are done.
Right.
So, you know, I took all those things she said and I went back to my other ex-wives and I said, hey, look, you know, so-and-so said this. She said, this is why we didn't work out. I said, well, what do you think? They're like, yep. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Let me add to that.
You're like,
For real,
slow
for real.
down.
For real. Yeah, you know, and you know, for a few years after that, I took that list and I really made an effort to work on those things and not to be so I could be a better mate for somebody else, but
Right.
these were the things I needed to work on.
Right. You needed confirmation.
No, these are things I need to work on for myself.
Right.
Okay.
These are things I need to work on to be a better person.
Right.
You know what I mean? If 3 women who've spent, you know, I was with my first wife for 14 years, and then I was with my second wife for 4 years, and I was me and my ex-wife. We were together on and off in our lives, each other's lives for 7 years. So that's a big chunk of time. And if all 3 of those women are saying the same thing, you might need to work on those
Right,
things they're
right,
talking
right.
about. You know what I mean? So going back to your question, you can only work from where you're at.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he didn't have the tools because he wasn't given those tools
Right.
to be able to address that. He only could do what he had.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Part of you know, I always thought that when I started down this path, you know, working on myself, that I was seeking validation from women because I didn't feel that I got that from my mom. Common theme, right? Well, I had to look at that. Yes, I was seeking validation from women, but it wasn't because of that. Because first of all, your perception of history is only your perception, and not necessarily might what it be. My mom might have done what she needed to do and whatever, but that was just my perception.
Right.
That she didn't do that. So that's on me, number one. Number two, my mom, I don't really get into my mom's business, but her childhood was very traumatic. So she was only loving me from the amount of love that she could give.
Right.
So what I needed to do was to understand that, number one,
Right.
forgive her, number two,
And look
and
at
take
it as what she
responsibility
did
for what
do.
I was doing, number
Right.
three, and trying to push that off on other people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So once you got into like the concept of getting back in shape and doing the marathons and the Spartan runs and everything, you're still cooking through all of that?
Yes, I was in the restaurant business. Some of the time I was front of the house, but yeah, I was still.
So did you work your way up? Did you ever go to culinary school?
I graduated from the restaurant school in '92, something like that. Yeah, I was the last graduating class before they became the University of Walnut Street.
Okay. Wow. So then how did you get into the personal chef thing?
So when I started my journey into health, I was and still am a personal trainer. And, diet was always a very big part of that. So when I started, it was basically doing meal prep for people who were trying to get into shape. And then that just kind of just evolved into what it is now.
Wow. So do you pick up clients through the personal training side of things or?
Yeah. And just word of mouth. It's always been just word of mouth.
Right.
What are some of the like jobs you take on? Like people will just call you to do a party, or
I do everything from parties to, like I said, I do a lot of I call it adulting 101, just teaching people how to cook.
Okay.
I go from teaching them how to take
is this
yeah, it's
website?
actually at a client. Yeah, it's my website. That's at a client's house. Teaching them how to take a recipe, break it down into those are pork wontons and a corn relish right there. So teach them how to break down a recipe, turn that into a prep list, and then take that into the store. Show them how to navigate the store. Come home, show them how to set up their kitchen. Show them how to break down the prep list into duties and to actually prep the food and store it
Wow, so you're breaking down the whole process to them.
Yeah.
And you have a podcast also, right?
I have a show on RVN-TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's on YouTube as well?
No, RVNTV.com.
Okay.
They can write that through their own portal. Yeah.
So RVN.
Yes, RVNTV.
RVNTV.com. You can check out his show. And you do like mostly culinary stuff on there?
So it's a hybrid. It's a cooking show. It's a talk show that I cook on.
Okay.
So my guests come on and
like to chew?
I don't know. I don't watch TV. It's like the chew.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the chew.
It was who was on that? Mario Batali and
was that? Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael Simon and
okay. Yeah, so I modeled it after the chew. I'm like, how can I get a show that's just like the chew?
No, you know what? It's funny because the chew was modeled after The View, but they wanted to add cooking to it. It was such BS. But
yeah, so I mean
that show was crap.
I like to, like I said, it's like people are in my kitchen. We just have a conversation. I cook you a meal while we're doing it.
And that's cool.
Okay.
What do you find yourself making for clients the most? Like, is there anything you're like tired of making?
If I'm working for clients, no, because they're paying me. I do whatever.
But personally, is there anything you're like, if I have to make another damn?
Nah, man, nah.
No?
I always say that I don't work.
Yeah.
I get to do what I love to do every day and get paid for it. So,
cooking is one of them things, man. I think people that don't know how to cook, I feel sorry for them.
Right.
Like, not in a way where it's like, I feel sorry because they don't understand, like, how therapeutic it is.
It is.
How creative you can be in the process of cooking. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, you can really just try different things and experiment, and it's like chemistry mixed with art.
It's all chemistry. I tell all the young cooks I train that there's two things you need to know. You need to know food history, how we've used food throughout the beginning of time, and chemistry, because once you know the math, you can literally cook anything. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's only certain ways that meat cook. Meat cooks because of the chemical breakdown. You're breaking down the peptide chains of the protein. You're denaturing the protein. That's either done through heat or is it done through acid. That's the meat is the flavor that we considered consider brown meat is called the Maillard process, where it's the sugars is combining with the carbon, and that only happens within an 1/8 inch thickness of the meat. And once you start knowing all of these things, then there's really nothing.
Takes the
you can't-
mystery
yeah.
away.
And there's nothing you can't cook.
There's some people that look at ingredients and they're like, I have no idea what to do with these things. Like, what do you tell to those people?
I try to show them. I just try to show them how simple it is. I'll show them first, and then I'll break down what I'm doing, because I think personally, I think in flavors and textures. Like I can walk through an aisle of the store, like the produce, whatever, and I can put together a meal in my head as I'm walking.
Right.
Or you can give me certain ingredients, and I can already construct, because that's how I think.
Right.
So I just try to help people to not necessarily think that way, but break it down. Like, this is sweet. This is sour. This is salty. This is going to go with this because of this. Or like, if you're doing something that's acidic, put a little bit of honey in it, because the honey is what it does is it's going to stretch out the bitterness. A lot of people think that it changes the pH. It has nothing to do with the pH. It just, in essence, stretches out the bitterness so it's not as bitter. So it just mellows out the flavor. It doesn't make it sweet. It just mellows it out.
What do you think? How does someone set up, like someone who doesn't know how to cook? Like, what would your advice is? Set up a kitchen, like as far as flavors to start out. How would they do that?
My brother's intensely watching this right now because he's been asking us, like, you got to teach me how to cook, man.
Right.
So it just so happens that I've written a cookbook, and
There you go.
It's just
Tell people where they can find it.
It's in the process of getting published right now, and I have a section on that. And the whole book is about that. It's about it's called That Damn Cookbook: The Art of Eating Well Uncensored, and it's about that the basic things you should have in the kitchen. Your cinnamon, your turmeric, your garlic.
These are dry seasonings.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those kind of things. One good knife. A couple good pans.
Right.
Yeah.
It talks about all those.
Right.
those
So you don't need this like. I think people get overwhelmed. They see these shows and it's set up like a chef's kitchen.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't have that.
And, I talk about that in the book too. Like, if your budget allows it, get the Anthony Bourdain, Martha Stewart,
what's that right there?
Okay, so this is a prime example of what I talk about, because I teach the art of eating well. I don't like to use the term healthy eating, because that's very subjective.
Right.
I use the term eating well because everybody can eat well. And that, what you just saw, was one of the shake jars I do. It's great for breakfast. So there's blueberries, pomegranates, apples, avocados, kale, and peanut butter. And then what you do is you just put that on the blender with, I use almond milk in mine if you want to put a scoop of protein in it. And then you have like a complete meal ready to go out the door with you. Yeah. Wow. And you can make like 5 of those up in the beginning of the week, and they're good for the week.
You can store those and have a
And
nice shake.
that's for breakfast?
Breakfast, midday snack, whatever, yeah. So that's what it's about. It's about finding the best way to be the best version of yourself and still be in the real world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because life happens.
Yeah.
And
that's education, because someone like me, cooking means taking out a pan, and you're saying you could just blend that and you got a meal right there.
Yeah. Look at that.
Wow.
What's that?
That's a Moroccan seasoned chicken. So there's cinnamon and curry, onion powder, garlic powder, cumin.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing to me when you realize like how different cultures have adapted all of these flavors into what they do. Like I know when like say for example when you guys make pigtail and dal and then you take the cumin and then you roast it in the oil, and that totally changes the flavor of it.
It does.
And then you add that into it at the end, and it just like brings this earthy flavor out of the food that if it's not there, it's missing. You know what I mean? It's so food is so interesting to me, man.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
But it's crazy. Like Jason just mentioned like that little jar right there.
Yeah.
To most people, that's not breakfast. Breakfast is eggs, bacon,
cereal,
sausage, pancakes,
oatmeal.
Right.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is something that you can do on the go instead of pulling in the Wawa and getting a sizzly. You know what I mean?
That's where the mistake is made
Yeah.
because we just want it quicker now.
Or
Right.
an egg McMuffin.
Right. And it's stuff like that. So food isn't the enemy. Okay, it's your lifestyle that needs to change.
Right.
Wow, yeah, that's
You
true.
know
That's
what I mean?
so
And that's
true.
what I teach
Yeah.
people. I teach people how to re-engineer their lifestyle.
Right.
And part of re-engineering that lifestyle is working out a way to allow the real world.
Right.
Because it'd be great if you had somebody like me and then you made breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you, and all you had to do was but that's not what happens.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We can't afford you.
Not even that. It's real world. Even somebody like me, I cook all my food and blah blah. But there's days when I run out of the house and my boys get Pop-Tarts for breakfast.
It's
Because
real life.
that's real life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when you can do stuff like that, that helps you to avoid as many of those situations. It helps you to keep
Right.
your lifestyle
Right.
Right.
on
Right. It's so
point.
true. You're right. It is. You've convinced yourself that I don't have time.
Yeah.
I'm too busy.
Right.
And-
you make time for what's important.
Right. And you just said you don't watch TV, and that's probably where the time is.
Right.
You're just
That's
sitting
where
there
you can
wasting.
prep those meals, not
Right.
watching Housewives.
Right.
Um,
You're right.
I want to ask you, in your opinion, what's your favorite way to cook a steak?
Medium rare.
No, I mean like process, the
Medium
whole
rare.
process of
That's it,
cooking the
just
steak.
medium rare.
Just any way it's cooked.
So the thing about putting like marinades or anything on a steak or a chop, it really only affects a very thin layer of the meat, and it really doesn't contribute that much to the overall flavor. So if you're going to marinate something, first of all, marination really doesn't change the texture of the meat too much because steaks and things that they're too thick. So the acid and all that only really gets that first thin layer of the fish. So unless you're doing something like chicken or fish, that acid and stuff's really not going to penetrate down in there. So, I'd rather have a good cut of meat, nice marbling, some salt and pepper, and just
I'm saying like on a skillet.
So it depends.
Grill,
It depends. Like if I'm going to
sous
grill,
vide.
if I'm going to sous vide.
Some people swear by them.
I don't like anything that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I've never, not only don't I watch TV, like I've never watched Game of Thrones just because everybody watches.
Yeah.
I've never watched
Right,
it.
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not that.
I understand what you're saying. That's
Yeah.
me. If you everybody likes it, I don't
I
like
don't
it.
want nothing to do with it. And the sous vide is the same way.
It's a trendy thing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've been using sous vide for years in the kitchen. Now it's a sous vide.
Yeah.
But it depends. Sometimes I like a nice sear on a cast iron skillet. Sometimes I like I'm a charcoal guy, so I like the
I
charcoal.
love charcoal.
It depends.
Right.
Are you a fan of this reverse searing thing that's becoming a new trend? Have you heard about that?
What are they-
They're like cooking it up to the perfect temperature on like a pellet grill or something, and then after the fact searing it to get the
What do you mean? They're based with the butter and all that.
yeah, and then after the fact they sear it to get
Trendy.
the crust on
Tell
the
us,
outside.
Jason.
I mean,
We're lost.
listen.
Yeah, let us know, man. Your opinion.
At the end of the day, whatever you like, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, that's what you
Food
do.
is subjective. We were
Right,
just
right,
talking
right.
about this
That's-
It
the
is
other
very
day.
That is
subjective,
true.
but
Yeah.
there's so many things
Right.
people like. My Instagram is it's funny because it's either food or half naked women because not a lot of fitness stuff.
Right.
But and you see everybody doing the same thing. If I see one more thing of octopus, I'm going to spit.
Everybody's eating
is hot
octopus?
right now. Yeah, everybody's plating
Since
up octopus.
when?
Dude, man, octopus is all over the place.
Right.
I remember I grilled some octopus and put it on Instagram a couple years ago, and
Ew.
people were going
Yeah,
off.
octopus.
What is that? How could
If I
you
see
eat it?
octopus, if I see one more butter-based steak, it's
Yeah.
just
Right.
There's or one more crescent presentation.
What is a good cut of like? I don't like. That's my thing. When I go in a grocery store, I don't really know the cuts to get. I'm normally looking for the cheapest.
Yeah.
So, like,
So I mean, if you're looking for the cheapest, your skirt steak, your shoulder.
Okay,
the
that's a
secondary
good
cuts,
flavor and good
your
marbling
flat
and stuff.
irons. They're the secondary cuts. They're going to be cheaper normally, but they're still flavorful.
Okay.
They're going to be a little tougher, so you're going to either have to cut those thinner. Or
so
cook them
skirt
quick.
or flank?
Flank is more expensive. Skirt or like a flat iron.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's go to is like sirloin.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the sirloin?
I mean, I like a sirloin. That's my favorite cut, actually. Next to a
sirloin?
ribeye.
Sirloin,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. I like a ribeye because
I like a ribeye, yeah.
big piece of fat in the middle, and the marbling
Right.
is yeah.
So just good. You're just saying good black pepper and good salt.
Salt and pepper. Yeah,
That's it.
Nice.
What kind of salt do you like to use?
Kosher.
Kosher salt.
Okay. Now the other question I had is those, because I'm in the contracting world, right? Those high-end stoves, like the Vikings and the Thermidors,
They're nice.
it doesn't make a difference though. It does.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing.
Because like they'll have better BTU, so the flame will be higher.
Right.
They're going to be a more consistent oven temperature.
Okay.
They're usually easier to clean.
Right.
You know, they're better built. You know, it's
Right.
like a difference between a Hyundai and a a Beamer.
Right.
Right.
It's the little things.
Because because I've installed them in a couple of kitchens. And I'm like, they're nice, but I know the people who are there.
They're
not using them.
No, man. No.
So I'm like, is this for show?
I go into some of these homes and these kitchens, these ovens. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Right.
We've never
Yeah.
used this. I can tell. Like it's an awesome
Right.
oven. Yeah.
So this is a pro. This is truly a
Yeah,
pro
yeah.
equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now let's go to. I gotta go to seafood. I gotta go to fish. What's your favorite fish?
I've been on a bronzini kick lately.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a whole fish.
Bronzini.
She's gonna
See if
pull
you
it
can
up.
look that up.
All right.
Yeah, it's a whole fish. It kind of looks like a. It's in the Mediterranean. It kind of looks like a big trout.
Okay.
Yeah, you keep a bone on.
It's a seafood, like a saltwater.
Mediterranean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the flavor profile of that?
White, flaky, mild.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to do it. The last few times I've been doing is scaling it. You know, leaving
Right.
the bones on, scoring it, dredging it in cornstarch, and then pan searing it real quick. Pulling out of the pan, I'll put some bok choy and some ginger and some scallions and stuff like that, and black bean sauce. Toss that up, make a sauce, and then put the fish back in it. And
So do you typically go with the Asian profiles?
that's kind of where I drift.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's all of
Okay,
that's
there we go.
bronzini. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they are killing it though with the food. Asians, like
Right. So now like stuff like mahi mahi and
I like
striped
mahi-mahi.
bass.
I
And
like striped bass. Okay, I prefer sea bass, but striped bass is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of those things in restaurant. I'm like, I always ask
Because they're
myself, like,
popular and people know that. See,
Right.
they need to sell things that people know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you sell like moonfish or
Mm-hmm.
wahoo or butterfish, they're not going to be the more popular fishes that people might not know about. them.
Right,
They're
right.
really good.
Right.
But
I always find myself being unfulfilled. Like when I'm like, I don't want to eat chicken again. But I try something and I'm like, it's not that.
that's why I don't go out to eat.
Right. You're right. You're right. Don't go out to eat.
because you
I
feel
want to try
unfulfilled,
chicken
right?
again, but
Because I'll never complain.
Right.
I'll never do a Yelp thing.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not that guy.
Oh,
either.
we definitely got to talk about that. But go ahead.
I just won't go back.
right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Me too. I'm the same way.
Because I always give them the benefit of the doubt. It could be a bad day.
Right.
You could have had a fight with his wife, and
Right.
whatever. So I don't judge. I just
Yeah.
You
You
lost
lost me.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So now, what do you think of as a chef? What do you think of like review sites, Yelp, all those kind of things?
Yeah, so I was working just one place, right? I was working in front of the house at the time. This cat, it was Valentine's Day. He actually wrote a Yelp review in the foyer of the restaurant because he had to wait for a table on Valentine's Day.
On
How you do that?
Valentine's
How
Day.
How you gonna do that, man? Yeah,
Wow.
there's a bunch of I always say this, you go to countries like Israel and Russia where you're required to be in the military for 2 years. I think everybody in this country should be required to work in customer service for a year.
Right.
Because we are so overprivileged and we just think that the world revolves around
Yeah.
us.
That's true.
You know
That's
what
true.
I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like,
Until you know what it's
Right.
like,
Right.
you can't gain
Right.
perspective. Yeah.
He expected
we kind of
the doors to be open.
We grew up in customer service, and
so we always tip.
yeah, it's always been
Always
a thing.
tip.
Like always tip, never complain. Like try to be as understanding as possible.
right.
But yeah,
Because you never know. Like I said, the waitress might got yelled by the chef. The chef might have had a bad
Right,
day.
right.
You don't know what's going on.
There's a
back
lot
there.
of factors.
Yeah.
so many
man.
dynamics.
So right. So like back to this guy, he Valentine's Day,
Right.
he expected to show up, the doors flung open.
Yeah.
There's your table.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Right.
man. He's writing
Right.
Yelp right there in the thing. This is
And,
unacceptable.
but that's the thing is though, we are constantly creating things that we put in their hands to give them the power.
Right.
And that's what it is. They think that they have we live in a society now where everybody thinks that their voice matters.
Everyone can be a
Right.
judge.
Right.
And nobody's doing nothing.
No.
Right.
Nobody's
I think what should happen is whoever wrote the review should have to go confront the
They
chef or the
should.
owner.
They should. Bring it back. Let's talk about it.
Do the restaurants really take into consideration those Yelp reviews?
No, but the customer base does, so it affects them. You know,
Right.
people
Right,
will go
right,
on Yelp
right.
and Google and look at their ratings
Right.
to base whether they should go out to a restaurant.
And they're not even. There's been an algorithm done or a study done that they're not even reading the reviews. They're
Right.
looking at the stars.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
The stars
Yeah.
come first.
Right.
Yeah, I always read.
If it has 4.5 stars, then you start reading the reviews.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I always read because of that. Because
Right.
I found that you always get these people who complain about the stupidest thing.
Stupidest thing.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
we-
right.
Yeah, we were
right.
talking about
Like
it.
if they're complaining about the food, I read about the.
Right.
If they're
The
it's
food was
different.
excellent.
I don't
but
care
the
about
paint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't like the chairs.
The server was Shirley. With
Right,
me. She
right,
was,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to fish through it too. But in a way, it doesn't it do like things like Yelp. We're we have learned how to navigate around that
Yeah,
because we know
yeah.
it's not real. You know, we don't
Read between the lines,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
People
definitely a
can't
way
do
to use it so it can help you, but
right.
you can't just take
You can't
it
take in
face
what
value.
everybody
Yeah.
says. Yeah,
No.
that's interesting. And it's pretty much foods and like the service industry that suffers from this.
Yeah.
You know.
Again.
You can write a review on I went to the Yankee game and it sucked.
They do.
They do, but nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Yeah, it's coming to that point
Right,
though. You
right,
know,
right.
in China they have the you can review people. You can write reviews on people.
That's awesome.
like in Black Mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
You walk around with your
Yeah.
stars.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a he was telling me, but that was a great
Shane
concept.
was
Yeah.
a piece of crap.
Yeah, right. And it actually like becomes your social score, which is used for like a credit score.
Stop.
So it's like
No, this is in the movie. This is
no,
not
no,
China.
this is in China.
This is-
Yeah, this
Oh
is
my
they've
God.
already started implementing this in China.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
This
so
is
it's
so
like,
awesome.
but Black Mirror episode was so ingenious about it because what it does is it creates all of these false relationships. So you're interacting with people just to get a good review.
Right.
So
You're
nothing is
phony. You're
authentic.
phony.
that's
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
social media, anyways.
Right,
You're right,
That's
but then it
social
becomes
media.
real life though.
But social media is people's perception of real life.
It's true. It's
You
true.
know,
It's sad but true.
You have to. How many people tell you read their thing? Like, man, she's going through her fourth boyfriend. They're in love. That's awesome.
Right.
Right,
6
right.
months ago, she was in. Okay.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is going to work out though.
Right. This one's gonna work out.
Right. This
Yeah.
picture on the beach tells me this.
Right.
I like it.
But then it's like, how superficial are you?
That's what
Right.
I'm saying. Yeah.
How many layers do you
Right.
have covering who you really are?
Right.
Bro, when we were in the Bahamas, we on one of our Instagram stories, we were on the beach and we were just hanging out. We had just got there, and we look off to the side, and there's these two girls that are like doing a full-on photo shoot with each other for 40 minutes straight. And so I just start filming them, like, don't be these people
Right.
because
Enjoy your time.
Enjoy your time. They're literally
Right.
spinning around in the water, taking selfies.
They're painting a
and
picture, man.
taking it and then laying on the beach and letting the water
Who,
come
me?
over them. Yes. And then they're taking turns taking pictures of each
Right.
other. And it was everywhere. Me and Moon were sitting in the hot tub, and there's this Asian girl in the other hot tub, and she's got her mom over there taking 100 pictures of her posing in all these different poses.
Right.
It's like, yo, you're not even enjoying your time.
You know, I felt guilty to that. You know, and we all know those people that like lose weight and then they become very narcissistic.
Right,
and that
right.
was me for a period of time. You know what I mean? And like after a while, I'm like, you know what, man? I have more substance to this. So like, I'm very careful about that kind of stuff that I post
Yeah,
anymore
yeah.
because it's like,
Right,
you
right.
start looking like that's all you have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you start wondering, like, why do I need attention for this?
Exactly.
You know, you start
Exactly.
asking yourself, like, what am I lacking inside
Right,
that I need
right,
this
right,
validation
right.
through likes from
Right.
other people, from
somebody-
strangers?
From someone I'm never going to say.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's okay to post a story, but like you said, the brain, the chemicals, the endorphins that's released from getting the likes, and it continues. But people just don't know how to. All right, I've accomplished this. Now it's time to move on and do other things. They want to
And
do the same thing.
It's
over
not
again.
even that. I mean, it's like, you know, when it becomes straight physical, like, oh, I was at the gym today. Really? You have to be in a sports bra and pants up
Yeah,
behind you
right.
to show you're at the gym? Or
Right.
you have to, don't you own a shirt, bro? Don't you own a shirt?
You don't own a shirt.
You don't own
no.
a shirt. You know, and I was that guy for a while. And it's like, you have to stop back and look. It's like, yeah, there's more to me than that. So I want to, that's not the look I want to portray.
If you're being honest with yourself, you're doing it to fill some type of hole.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you feel like getting those likes and getting those DMs from girls and those comments with the fire emoji and
Right.
you know what I mean, that's gonna somehow
Right,
and
right.
it never does.
No,
Right.
Now your next picture you need more likes.
And then the other aspect of it is the person who sent you the fire, she's sending that out to 5 other dudes that look like you.
right. All
Or
the
look
dudes-
better than you, actually.
Right. Right. All the dudes that she's
Or
following.
the girl, or the
Right.
same thing with the girl.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
You're a one message and a 100.
Right. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, don't be that thirsty guy.
Yeah, or girl. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But, social media, it's the same thing you were saying. Because a lot of people demonize social media. And I've been watching this dude, Gary V, lately. He's talking about how social media is not the problem. It's our own insecurities that get amplified through social media that become
I
the
agree.
problem. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
He made his empire off of social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones to do it.
Yeah. He's a pioneer, but he's right about it. Everything he says is so basic. It's just a matter of like really focusing and doing it, the things that he says.
Absolutely.
But when he said that, it just because I used to be one of those people that was like, oh man, social media is just turning everybody into narcissists. It's like no, they already were.
And here's the thing: the thing with social media is just like the thing with TV, is just like the thing with news. You have control.
Right.
Like I go through my feed, and if you're putting up some bullshit, you're unfriended. I
Right.
don't make a big statement about it.
Yeah.
I don't make.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
talk.
I agree.
Because you put in
Right.
the statement up of like
Right.
I'm unfriending anyone who
Right.
that's
No,
you
no,
trying
no.
to then
Yeah, exactly. I just unfriend you,
Right.
and I use social media to promote my brand.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I use it, and it's free.
Yeah,
That's
us
why I
too.
use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tool. You got to use it in the right way.
Yeah.
Right. But you're in total control of what you put on. You're in total control of,
You're
And
in control of how you feel when you see your friends
Right.
on vacation
Right.
and you're not there, and then you feel insecure
you
or
attack your
you're
spouse.
missing out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's your own
that's
issue.
your own issue. Right.
So
you know.
your jealousy is you're taking that now home and you're getting into a fight with your husband or wife because you saw something
Right.
that affected you. You know what I mean?
And you,
And-
yeah,
And I tell people this all the time, and I was a prime example of that, my ex and I on paper, like on social media, like we look like that couple. You know what I mean? But behind the scenes, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Never be jealous of whatever somebody else has because you don't know what the story is behind the thing.
they're
You know what I
showing you
mean?
highlights.
Right.
That's it.
You don't know.
Right.
Don't ever want to be in I wish don't. You don't know. You don't know what you're asking for.
Right. We need to be like Jay-Z and Beyonce.
No, you don't. Or couple goals. Or this,
Right.
this-
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's life. I will never post anybody's life as my goal.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want your life.
You don't know their life.
I don't know their life.
You only know what
Right.
they're showing you.
Right.
Is that a new thing because of social media, or you think that's always been there, like from the lifestyles of the rich and famous and all
No,
that
it's
stuff?
always been.
I
there.
think it's
just more
always been
amplified.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely more amplified
Now
now.
the average person have the ability to do it, right?
No,
I mean, it's just
well,
in your face more.
Yeah.
That's all. Lifestyles of the rich and famous was just a prelude to what's going on now,
Right.
you know.
And
Right.
now people are going in debt to put something on social media so they can show that they did something.
Right.
Or I was there.
Absolutely.
Traveling's like that now. If you notice, everybody has to travel to these different places. You know what I mean, and show
Yeah,
off. I've been
and that's
here,
why
I've
it's
been
so
there.
expensive.
Girls trips. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Bahamas was expensive for no
Yo,
reason.
I'll never go there.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'll never go there on a trip.
It was
It was just
It was
way
so
overpriced for no
expensive. Like,
reason. Not
The,
even
the
worth
restaurants
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me they were charging in American dollars.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at that.
it. 100% American
Yeah,
dollars.
at first
everything.
I'm like, this can't be American dollars.
yeah,
But
$75 for the buffet.
$800 for a steak.
Yeah,
Gotta
What?
be in yen.
yeah.
Yeah, they charge American. I didn't know that.
$75 for the buffet, man.
$800 for a steak?
No,
I was-
he was joking.
No,
he was
no.
joking.
But $75 for a buffet,
Yeah, yeah,
Still, that's crazy.
all
Yeah.
you can eat, right?
yeah, yeah.
Was there a cot you could take a nap and go back for like round two?
We didn't get past. The
I'm
70
sleeping
We
somewhere.
didn't get past the door when she said
That's
that
when
price.
they saw the buffet and then they looked at the driver like, "Hey man, what can we eat?"
Yeah, right? That's ridiculous.
Take us where y'all.
I didn't eat that night.
Yeah.
No,
No,
No, you ate some. We gave you
I
some
got
of
some
our. Me and
vegetables.
Moan got some
Right.
veggies and
right.
some wings from the noodle spot. They had
Right.
like some Asian hand drawn noodle spot.
Right.
And we
Because
just got some
when we're
stir-
going there, like when people go They're like, oh, I'm on vacation. So.
I'm gonna spend.
But
and
us, we're like, we're here to work. So,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, we're not trying to spend extra money. I'm trying
Yeah.
to come home.
Trying
I'm trying to
make
take
some
my
money.
money
Right,
home.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right. Makes sense. I mean, I think too, like, you know, the main thing is, like you said, when people go on vacation, they want to have that full experience.
Yeah.
And that means eating a expensive meal because they think they're getting something special, you know.
Right.
And maybe they are. Who knows?
I don't know. People, their perception of what I know. I've been cross country on the train twice. I love the train. If you're never going cross country and train, I suggest it.
I've never done
Yo,
it.
Wow.
it takes.
I didn't
2
even know
days.
they had that.
No, me either.
Yeah. You can go. There's 2 main routes they go. Amtrak. One goes a northern route. One goes a southern route. And if you plan it right, you can plan. If you go through the Rockies at sunrise, you go through the Rockies at sunset. It's an amazing trip. It takes 3 days. The first time I did it the whole trip for $1,000.
Wow.
I had a blast.
Up and back.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Had a blast.
And you just the whole time like so. How's the train? Does the train have like place for you to sleep and stuff?
Well,
like that?
you can get the sleeper car, but I stayed in the regular seat, and it was fine, man. And they had a big. So once the train leaves Chicago, the club car is a double-decker plexiglass top. So you're just going like, imagine watching the sunrise through the plains at like
That's crazy.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Just you and just the sound of the train and just watching the sunrise over some beautiful country. Like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like, that's a trip to me.
You can't get lit on the train though. that's what most people think. They thinking
Right,
about
right,
like
right.
you know.
There's a club car on the train. You can get alcohol on the train.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh.
I'm talking about you know
Oh.
they can't live out you know
Yeah, you can't hear the horn.
the Bachelor Part 5.
Right,
That's
The horns.
That's to me, that's a distraction.
I
That's
agree.
not-
I
Right,
agree.
right,
But
right,
people
right.
get so caught up in
Right.
watching movies and wanting to live
That's
it
our
out.
generation, though. Our generation is we grew up on MTV, so everything has to be
Yeah, spring break.
out of the.
Yeah.
Nothing is spiritual. Everything has to be like, crazy.
Right.
You know.
Jersey
But
Shore.
and that's the thing, though. Even though when people do crazy stuff, it's really not crazy because they're doing what everybody else does.
Right.
You know what I
Watch me
mean?
copy everybody.
Yeah.
It's like
No.
tattoos. Like
Yeah.
people, like, they started copying each other.
Well, now they're trying to keep up in the ante. Now their whole faces are getting covered. Remember we were watching Mike Tyson. We're like thinking about it, like, yo, he was the first one to get a face tattoo, and they slammed him all
Now-
up and
now
down
look
the
at 'em.
news. Now look at everybody
All these kids.
getting dumb stuff on their
right.
face.
These kids like getting full body tattoos of stuff that's not going to mean nothing in 20 years. Like all my tattoos, I have like 14 tattoos. They all mean something. All
Wow.
have meaning. Like I won't get a tattoo unless I get it drawn up and I look at it for like 6 months.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I research it. You know what I mean? And it means something. But like
No
these people,
Donald Duck or nothing.
right? You know what I mean? Like these people are just getting some stupid.
Yeah, they're
stuff.
trying to be different.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I think when people go on vacation or they travel, everything has to be wilding out and drinking and turning up. It's not necessarily about going someplace and meeting the people and the culture. It's just wilding out.
But even wilding out, they don't know how to wild out. Like it's all about I don't even know, like excess or shock or this or that.
Drugs,
Drugs.
because there was a lot of that in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like you can get drugs anywhere. Right on the beach, they're coming up to you. What do you want? You want blow? You want Molly? You want, whatever.
Wow.
Because people are out there to party. You
And they don't
know?
know how to party sober.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They just want to get wasted.
Plus, you needed a reason to be like why you did what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But see, that's the thing, though. If you're like, if you really don't, if you know how to do it right,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? These people, they don't know how to. Don't even get me started. They don't know how to do it right.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. I do want to travel across the United States. One place I want to see is Yellowstone. I want to see that, and I do want to try. I enjoy it. I really enjoy
So
it.
you can get a pass, right?
No, I
Like
didn't know
you-
that.
Like a lot of the Yellowstone, a lot of those parks are in close proximity, and you can get like I forget how much it is, but it's not that much, and you can get a pass for like a bunch of those parks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking
they're
forward to that.
Crazy.
I like driving too, man. Like, I enjoy driving. Like that. My wife and I took our first anniversary. We took a trip to Canada, Toronto, and I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
Upstate New York in the
Yeah.
fall,
Oh, yeah.
it was beautiful. man.
I used to be in Vermont like once a month. A lot of our races and stuff were up there. Yeah, New England is crazy.
Yeah.
I just saw something online. You can plot a trip from throughout the North America if you have the time that you can go travel the whole year round and stay within 70-degree weather.
What?
Yeah. Well, you know, if you do that, you know the Appalachian Trail, right?
No, I never been there.
You know the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Starts in
it.
Georgia
I know
and
it.
goes to
But
Maine.
yeah, I know.
If you start like at the beginning of a season and walk, it'll be the same season for the entire trip.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that. Even like, Connecticut and stuff like that. That's the first time I had like, I've never seen oysters being grown. Mm-hmm. And because I always assumed that, they'd go out there and catching them. I didn't know that they had little fisheries.
Yeah.
And they would actually buy them, bring them back, and everybody has their own little specific. It's not huge. It's like actually like, small area. And they tell you, the guys are like, oh, this one's kind of grassy. This one's brackish. This one's this. And the flavor, no, I went for the big one because I'm thinking like this is gonna be good, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I was
Like the blue points?
yeah. So he was trying to
they're real
explain to
salty.
me. He was trying to explain. He's like, oh, these one have flavor notes.
Right.
It is the first time I've heard anybody talk about oysters like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
And West Coast are different than East Coast.
It is.
Yeah.
And I was like, there is a difference.
Yeah.
Like being there. See, because when you're in the supermarket, you can't figure out. You're like, I don't know. This guy back there, he doesn't know what's what. He's,
Right.
I don't know, they're from that place.
Yeah.
And this guy's explaining is that they're the ones farming it, fishing it. Even clams. I love raw clams. I never had raw clams before. And I was so surprised, like how much detail goes into that. They have to keep the sea lions out of there. All
And
of
they
this
bring
stuff.
it, they have them, with the oysters, they'll harvest them like out and
Yeah.
then they'll bring them in
Yeah.
because they'll be so salty if they're out here. They bring them in closer.
Yeah.
And
They
that's
constantly
when-
move 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get the flavor different. The flavor profiles is either salty or is it minerally. Some tastes like cucumber, some like
Yeah.
metallic taste to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot that goes into this stuff.
It's everything, man.
Yeah.
You were talking about, you wanted some coffee before. Sorry, we didn't have any for you, but even that, like people get
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so deep into that.
Yeah,
are
yeah,
you
yeah.
are you into coffee like that?
Oh yeah, I have a
Yeah.
French press and all.
Yeah,
the
me
whole-
too.
same
I
thing,
love-
And I grew up
man.
in a coffee plantation in Trinidad. My family were into agriculture, citrus and coffee and cocoa. And chocolate is not what it is here.
Yeah.
Coffee is not what it is. It's it's different.
Right.
It's so different. And you're right. I remember when we were kids, I saw something interesting. They would take like these plants and they would cut a part of the tree and they would graft on a new tree onto that. The other tree feeds it, but it's completely. It doesn't produce anything. It's like a
Right.
mule basically. And this new, you're getting the nutrients from the tree that's already existing, and this new plant being attached to it. And how they would do that, and they knew it. How they did it. I was like, wow, this
That's
is
how you get
amazing.
plants that are like not susceptible to certain bugs. And,
Right. It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
Even like bananas, people don't know this. The bananas that we eat right now is not the original banana.
Right.
That was created in England.
Same thing with carrots. They're not the original carrots.
No.
Carrots
Corn.
are purple. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. You're right. What we've seen is the visual effect. Like I worked for Wegmans at one time, and I remember them setting up everything, and whoever their buyer was, they're not necessarily looking for. I mean, there's nutrients, of course,
Right.
but they're really looking for the visual appeal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with this apple, but it has a dent here.
And
Yeah.
people, Americans, won't eat it because it has to be perfect.
Right.
Remember all the mangoes we had in Trinidad?
That's right.
Best mangoes I've ever had.
But they
if
didn't
you look
look-
at it, if you look at it on the outside, there's
Right.
brown spots.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't look appealing.
Oh, yeah.
But you open it up.
I lived
the
in Miami.
brightest
There was a
orange-
mango tree in everybody's yard.
Yeah,
It was,
Yeah.
But in the supermarkets, they can't sell those.
Right, 'cause they're not pretty.
Right, they have to be
Right.
pretty.
It's
So you get
years
them
and years.
shipped in from. You get them gassed and shipped in from.
Yeah.
I
you
tell
know.
him all the time, man, I grew up in that country and I wanted to get to America. I wanted to try cornflakes and bologna because I saw it on TV. Because cornflakes look so good, man. It was sunrise as a rooster. It was milk but
And
I
that's
tried
not
it.
even milk, right? On the commercial's not even milk.
Yeah.
It's not even milk.
Yeah.
But I got here and my aunt, she said,
couldn't
"What do you
wait.
want?"
You couldn't
I
wait.
said, "I want." She's like, "Oh, all right." I cut the bananas, I cut the strawberries, poured the milk in there, and I scrumptious.
Not even frosted flakes, regular cornflakes.
Just regular cornflakes. Yep.
Whatever I thought, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Bologna, hot dogs, all those things
I
are
didn't
like
know,
so
man.
enticing to them.
It looks so good, like a ball. Like the guys, the mustard on there. I'm like, man, and I, but it's all because of the visual.
Not
It got
knowing
me.
what you had. They say it all the time. They're like, we had a gold mine here because everyone's into coconut oil and coconut milk now.
Yeah,
And that stuff was
That's what
just
we grew
so-
up on
yeah,
that.
we grew up on that
We
stuff
grew up
so
on that, yeah.
plentiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee, what type of coffee are you into, by the way?
It depends. I like, I don't know, I like a good. I
What
just
type
like
of roast do you like?
I'd like medium roast.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's more caffeine, the lighter
Yeah,
the roast. Yeah.
I like the darker roast.
Yeah.
Just because I like the bitterness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, there is more caffeine
Yeah.
in the lighter roast. He likes the really, really light roast.
yeah.
You ever have Death Wish coffee?
No.
That's some good stuff.
What is
What's
it?
that?
Death Wish. That's the name of the coffee.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like one of the highest caffeine level coffees out
Right,
there.
right,
Wow.
Yeah, dark roast.
I gotta
Is
try
it pure coffee though?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wow.
I gotta try it, man.
Yeah. So it's the way they roast it.
Yeah, and just I don't know what they do. I don't know,
Right,
a little
right.
coconut. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some cocaine, sprinkle some crack on it.
Right.
Some speed on there. Speed coffee.
Sprinkle some crack on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting though because, like I said, I remember seeing that process, the sun drying of the beans and how it's done. Like we had something, the mortar and the pestle, and the how they made chocolate. This is what my dad likes. How he's so, but he drinks that cheap chocolate 'cause
Powder
he-
stuff now, yeah.
he-
but when
he-
I went to Grenada, I got the real cocoa.
The real right,
Yeah, yeah.
right. So they would take the beans and then they would smash it, and then you see the oils.
Yeah.
You see the oils in it, and it does have, but it is not sweet though.
Right. Yeah.
They don't have the sugar to it, you know. So
Yeah, I gave Rachel some of that chocolate. Did you ever drink that?
No, I still have it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's you got to add sugar to it because it's not sweet.
and when it's done, when you put it in the water, you see all the fat on,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
on it, you know.
All the oils.
But that's good fats.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
Yeah, we
no,
don't know. That.
Actually, that type of cocoa is actually really good for you.
Right.
You know, without
That-
all the sugar in it.
that-
There is no thing as bad fats.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just the overconsumption of certain
Right.
kinds of
Right.
fats. Yeah.
But we've been taught so long, like
and
okay,
trans fats.
right.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
Hydrogenated
It's not
So-
really
oils.
fat.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, right? So you know, like how every couple of years there's like they say, don't eat egg yolks; it's bad for you. Then they say, eat egg yolks. Like, where are they getting this stuff from?
Commodity
Flawed.
markets.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's
Like, there's no reason that dairy should be on the food pyramid.
wow, that's amazing. Because we're so conditioned, and is that because the farming? You told me about this.
Yeah.
The farming industry basically paid. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
why corn's and everything, because corn is the most monetized crop in the world.
They
Right.
actually used to fund corn farming back in the day.
Right.
They used to commoditize all the corn. If you could do a corn farm, the government would give you funding.
That's why, like, I used to have a Dodge. Remember the Dodge Neon?
Yeah.
The stock brake pads on those were corn husk.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Corn husk
We gonna make
composite.
this money.
Why is corn syrup in everything? Corn syrup is
Only in this
everything.
country though.
Yeah.
Right.
You go outside this country.
They've got
Hey,
rid of it.
I remember the first time when we went to England, we would get Coke, drink it. Like, this tastes weird. This is diet. No corn syrup. It's regular sugar. In
Regular
it.
sugar.
Yeah.
Right.
They're starting to change it though.
Right.
Slowly, it's coming out, or they're changing the names.
Right.
Yeah. No,
But that's
they
what-
are. They're just turning it to fructose
Right.
or
Right,
like
Right.
other
Right.
names.
It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really, don't you think it's because of factory farming that this has happened? Like we got rid of the small farmer that
Of
serviced the
course.
community, and they
course.
went to factory farming. So they
Well, it's
have
not
to
even-
pay for that.
It's not even so much factory farming. It's the GMOs too that are just
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that goes hand in hand with the factory
Yeah.
farming.
Right. Because they have to keep the thing
They both feed each other. Yeah.
right. Because when we were in the Carolinas, we drove past a pig farm, and this thing was miles and miles. You could smell it.
Mm-hmm.
So you thinking, what did it do with the waste?
Right. Right.
Because you can't get rid of it. It's gonna spill over. If there's enough of a rainstorm, however they're containing it, you know it's gonna spill out.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's the thing. Pigs don't stink if they're kept right. Like
Right,
that's not
right.
that's not a
Right.
Yeah.
If you guys did that when you guys went to that farm in PA, and the guy had he had a perfect symbiotic relationship between
Yeah.
the
Pigs,
agriculture,
he had
the
sheep,
animals.
He had cows. He had bulls. He had chickens. He had
There's
ducks.
a name. There's a name for that. It's I forget. But I interviewed a farmer over the summer that did that.
Like a cohabitation between.
Yeah, there's a name for that livestock. It's-
He was telling us that they might throw out one small bag of garbage a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they literally have no waste. They had an outhouse
Right.
where they would use like fat from the cows to make the soap that was in the outhouse. They would use sawdust from the trees and stuff like
Right,
that
for the toilet. Yeah,
toilet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Everything was like they would tap the trees to get maple syrup. Everything came from right there.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it was incredible.
it's supposed
man.
to be.
Yeah.
Right. He was a true doomsday prepper.
No, he just lived.
No,
it was out in the Amish
Right,
country,
right,
man.
right.
He
That's
just-
that's sustainable living.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how you're
Right,
supposed
right,
to live.
right,
Like,
right.
Now everybody can't live like that. So what do we do though? Like how do we? Not everybody's gonna have maple and pigs. You know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's not that hard. I think we just have to. I mean, first, it is hard if
That's
you live.
what bartering was for too, right?
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you live in the city, you're pretty
Forget
much
it.
screwed.
Yeah.
Like
Uber Eats.
I think the whole concept of like big, tall skyscraper cities is probably
Right.
flawed.
Right. And then
To say
part of
the
it
least,
too.
but
Yeah.
Part of it too is like you were saying earlier, man. We have to recondition ourselves. If you think you're missing out, you focus on that so much, you will want to go to the city to eat.
Well, think about
You
it. I say it all the time. I make this joke to Rachel because she's a city girl. You know what I mean? And I'm like, if you want to deal with homeless dudes pissing on your doorstep, so you could be 2 blocks from some shitty restaurants, that's all on you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not because people always say that they live in the city. They're like, oh, but we have so many restaurants. The restaurants suck and they're all dirty. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that great about it. You know?
Right.
Like they try to make it like it's this whole experience. Sex in the City did that for
I tell you what, I live in a cabin in the woods in a heartbeat.
me
Yeah.
too. Me too. With some land, get some animals.
Traveling to town once a month, get my supplies. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Whatever, and then roll back.
I would too. I want to get to a point one day where I can have some land with some animals.
We would have to practice celibacy because none of our wives ain't going with us. Bye.
Anyways, like I said, I roll to town once a month.
Yeah, and my wife is his sister who grew. If I would show you pictures of where they grew up, like it was.
He proved it to me though. He is truly what he say he is because he went to the Caribbean, and my sister, my wife, this is my wife. She loves Survivor and stuff. She tried to get me into the show, but who I am, I'm like, but that's not Surviving. That's a contest. That's a game show on a beach. So she's always to get on me. Oh, just give it a chance. I gave it a chance. I was like, I can't get into this. This is not really about surviving. It's really about the drama and the infighting.
The game.
The game.
Yeah.
We took her to Trinidad, and we got to my village. Now, my village where I grew up in, it's the last part of the island before you hit like the end. Trinidad is the last island in the Caribbean. When I left, we were one of the only families that had electricity. So I grew up without running water for 14 years of my life. So when we went back, outhouses, very simple life, right? Agriculture based, but it was a communal. And like he said, there was a lot of bartering, and we looked out for each other. So when I went back, the terror on my wife's face when nighttime came, it was him and I. I said, "Who's staying?" And he's like, "I'll stay." My wife, my 3 sisters all ran back. They were so deep into that van.
Because they wanted to get back. They were staying in the city where the air conditioning was.
They wanted nothing to do with that.
I say that all the time. Like, you look at, I say if it ever goes down, I'm taking his water. Definitely taking his water. And definitely taking his water.
Right.
Because, they're not built like that.
They're
You know what
not,
I mean?
yeah.
And, like,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Hey, we stayed down there. It was fine.
Yep.
It was awesome. We took him into the land. We took him into my ancestors' land, and we showed him like where we would do, how we would go get stuff,
Right.
and
Yeah, I don't think the average American. I mean, I would say that we are one major natural disaster away from people losing their minds.
Absolutely,
I agree.
absolutely. I agree
I've seen
with
it.
that.
I've seen the stories where
Yep.
like a snowstorm or
Yeah.
some kind of disaster.
And the grocery store is like
Right. And they don't
Walking
have the
Dead.
cable
Yeah.
for 2 weeks, and they flipping out.
and people are in the store trying to kill each other over
Yeah.
bottled water.
Yep,
You know?
yep. That's
Yeah.
true. That is very true, man. One disaster. That's it.
One natural disaster.
Yeah.
And we're,
Yeah, I
and we're-
never understand like when it snows a little bit.
Everyone
People just run to the grocery
buy all
store.
the eggs and
And
milk
the
and
thing about it is, they say the average American has enough food to last a month in their house.
right.
Yep.
But they got to go and get.
They
it
got to
tomorrow.
go get eggs
There
and
might
milk.
be a French toast.
Right?
Those people are dying. Who got eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious. The disaster. What was the disaster?
Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy.
I was down at the show when that happened.
Yeah.
And I saw people fighting and
Man, you always see that every time there's
Yeah.
some kind of like you see the real nature of people start
Quick.
to come out. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
All that politeness goes out the window.
Right.
But that's why I always say like veganism as we know it is it's a diet of convenience because or of privilege because if it came down to it and you're starving, you're gonna kill some animals and eat them.
I always say that people, that dog, he's not a dog, he's our family. Listen, you die and you in that house for more than 3 days,
Right.
that dog is going to eat you.
Gonna look like
Your
that
family-
dog is definitely gonna eat
Yeah,
you.
your family is not going to eat you. That dog will
Right.
eat you in 3 days. That's
Right.
not your family. That's a dog.
Yeah.
Jason Moss, personal chef at gmail.com. Give me nasty emails, but your dog's not your family. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the dog is only subservient to you because you're feeding it.
No,
right
I mean
now.
they're lovely, they're great
Yeah.
pets. I'm just saying, but people just they get out of hand with this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I was gonna say this.
she's over there nodding.
Cats too.
I do think people should hunt. Or I think people at
Yes.
least, if you're gonna eat something, you should at least kill it
Be
to see
connected
the process.
Be connected to the
I
food
think if
in
we did
some
that-
way. In
yeah.
some way, even like growing food,
Right.
like growing plants, grow
Yeah.
some herbs, do something.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with hunting. You know, like you said, if you're going to do it responsibly, and,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't have an issue with that. I mean, you know, if you want to do the vegan thing, God bless you, knock yourself out. You know, all hail jackfruit and his savior son cauliflower. But
Yo, cauliflower is like this new.
Yeah.
We're stealing that. Put that on a t-shirt.
but no, I mean, I'm a firm believer that we were designed to eat everything.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, you can perform very well and be an athlete and
On a
be
plant-based
vegan.
diet,
You
Right,
can,
right, right.
Yeah.
And you know, yes, it is. And I don't think it's getting back to what you were saying about the factory farming. I think it's the way that the meat's being processed and all this
Right,
stuff
right,
that's being
right,
done
right,
to it. You know,
right.
it's funny. The client I was at this week, they had an organic chicken, and I'm like, that's a Cornish game hen. They're like, no, that's what a chicken, the size of the chicken is supposed to be.
Supposed to
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
These
yeah.
Right.
That's a chicken. We
Yeah.
have these Frankenstein.
Yeah.
When
things
we were
now.
out there, they had their chickens are just running around in
Yeah,
the yard.
yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
They're
And-
way smaller.
Yeah.
Way smaller.
Right.
And tougher too.
Yeah. The meat is really tough.
Right.
Like the meat is really chewy.
And that's the thing. Like we need our meat to be tender.
Yeah.
We don't
Right.
have bone. We don't want to see.
Don't want to
anything.
see bones.
Right. You know, I don't understand that. Like I can't eat out of a bone.
I taught, not to cut you off, I taught a family, hold that thought. I taught a family, these kids piano lessons. They lived in South Philly, and they, in their South Philly backyard, which was fairly sizable, started growing plants, all kinds of vegetables, and had a chicken coop. The youngest one, I would go to teach him, he was 4 years old, and I'd be like, where's Calvin? They'd be like, he's on the chicken coop. I'd go outside, he'd be sitting on top of a chicken coop reading his book. Like, that was his place of solitude.
Wow.
So they had chickens for eggs. They didn't want to kill them, but they had a chicken who was getting a little older, and it was like, you're going to either kill the chicken or
Right.
the chicken's going to go to the waste.
Right.
So they didn't do all the research and had this horrible time trying to kill this chicken in the backyard. Couldn't get through it. It was so tough. Finally got the chicken beheaded, put it in the pot, didn't know what to do. So the chicken is in the pot and like immediately like turns rigor mortis and
Yeah.
is just like standing straight. So they went and like looked up the whole process of like how to kill a chicken and how to do it
Take the feathers
correctly.
off?
They did everything, but they failed miserably. Like they knew a little bit about it,
But
But they failed.
that's something that you would think we should all know.
that
right?
was a life moment for them
Yeah.
of being like, this is no joke. Like when you
Yeah.
kill an animal, like they went later and found this woman on YouTube who was like, this is how you kill a chicken.
Yeah.
Like I have a farm. This is how I kill my chickens. And she dead up like held the chicken, calmed the chicken down.
Yeah,
Right.
It was like, there's a respect that happens here when this animal's life
right,
goes.
Right,
It's
especially
not,
when it offered you its eggs for so many years,
Right.
And now it's offering you itself. Like you have to have
What's
this
the thing
respect.
with halal, with the way they do their meats, that there has to be a certain.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
process.
I
There's
think-
there's a
The animal has to
respectful
be calm
process
and-
to
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
So anyway, after they saw the right way, they were like, "Yeah, we didn't know any of that, like, and we'll never do that again."
Right.
That's the thing with like, you know, the sacrifices like in the Bible.
Yeah,
Like they had to sacrifice something that they raised up and
Right.
they were close
and it had to be the one without
Blemish.
blemish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be the most beautiful of all of
The
them.
first,
you know?
the first fruits.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, yeah.
So there was a relationship with
Yeah.
that food. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the whole factory farming thing is just them moving down the assembly line, zap, you know, and on, and like you said, the trauma that happens, and
Right.
now you're eating meat, you know.
But that's why people don't associate, like they get their bag of chicken nuggets from the grocery store, and they don't associate that with a living animal.
Right.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
Because it's about the life.
Yeah.
Like
And-
they're giving up life so that you can have life.
Right.
And that's the thing. I think that theme is prevalent throughout our society. We have taken away the face and the personality from so many things that we do and actions that we take, and it makes it easier for us to do it. That's not a person, that's a prisoner. You know what I mean? That's not a soldier, or that's not a child, that's a soldier.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mind control.
It is.
That's what people say about pets a lot too, like dogs and stuff. Like if you, every time you turn around, you leave the door open, the dog is trying to escape. That's not a pet. That's a prisoner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But it's easy to say, oh, well, that person did such, just lock them up. But that's a person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to send somebody, oh yeah, we don't like those people over there, so let's send our soldier. No, that's somebody's child.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's no ramification for our actions, what we do, and we're so far removed from it that as long as it doesn't offend our ideology, we're okay with it.
Right.
But we don't look deeper into the situation.
And I think we also do a bad job of, like we were talking about before, is researching things ourselves. We let the media brainwash us into believing.
Right. Yeah.
It's like there's another episode of Black Mirror. I'm a fan of this show because it's so deep.
Is that your point of reference? Everything's Black Mirror?
yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's this episode about, because it's all about technology and like where it's headed in the future and the tactics that are used on us now that we don't even realize. But one of the episodes was about how they were everyone believed that we were at war with this alien race.
Like 1984, we thought we were at war for. You ever read 1984?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But this was like they psychologically. So like everyone on the news believed that we were at war with this alien race that they were calling roaches. They were like these mutated humans, right?
Stormtroopers.
Same type of vibe. But the soldiers who were going to fight would go to fight, and they would be these mutated people that they're going and they're hunting them down and they're killing them. But one of the soldiers starts to malfunction because they've all been like, this is the future where like they use like chip implantations and stuff like that. So what it turned out was they just decided that this country is something that we want to take over, and they turned all of those people in the brains of the soldiers into these mutated alien creatures.
We can get real political about that real quick, but I'm
you know what I'm saying?
Let that slide.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like that's a tactic that's used now.
Yeah.
It's just used in a more subtle way where it's like, oh, these people are evil. You know what I mean?
What color is the Iraqi soldier's uniform?
I don't even know.
Exactly. Next question.
But I'm saying like it's one of those things where we're taught to, like we were taught. How long were we taught to believe that Muslims are just the enemy? First of all, Russians were the enemy.
So I put up a post a little while ago, and it had like, colored or whites only water fountain and the date,
Right.
and then had something else. And the final one was no Muslims, 2011.
Right.
Yo, the comments I got on that was crazy. And I don't post political stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not my thing. Your views are your views, and my views are my views.
Right.
I don't think that should be on post. But anyway, but the comments I got that were crazy, and I asked all these people, yo, how many Muslims do you know?
Yeah.
Have you ever read the Quran?
Have you ever talked to any of them?
Have you ever broke bread with a Muslim?
Mm-hmm.
How you gonna sit here and say this hateful stuff, and you don't even know a
Because
Muslim?
it's all spells, man. People are under those spells, man.
I think that's the ideology of America.
Yeah.
Now is just to be okay with judging.
Right.
Yeah.
Any situation.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as it's inside. That's why it's so dangerous what's going on right now, because certain people are saying things that align with your ideology.
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay with whatever they say because they're saying this.
Right.
One day they're gonna not like the stuff that you like too.
Right. And then
what are
what are you gonna do?
Right.
Yeah.
But you've already backed that horse.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very slippery slope we're running right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy time. But again, I think like if people were to just step outside of all of the chaos of what the news is telling them from Fox News or from MSNBC,
CNN, all of them,
CNN,
they're all the same way.
they're all the
That's
same.
what I
We
listen
talk
to.
about that all the time.
Yeah, right.
Like everyone thinks, oh, that one's terrible. No, they're all
that way. So you can't.
Yeah.
Like I listen to turn on CNN. It's like they're so blatantly one way, or Fox is so blatantly one way. It's like, yo.
But no one thinks it. They all think that.
Well, it's all your life too. I mean, your parents, it's hard for someone to turn against it because you feel like you're turning against your family because you're tied into it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
part of your identity.
Part of your identity,
Yeah.
man. Your
That's
church,
Yeah.
your community, and you can't say that because then you become the person they hurl the stones at.
Well, that's one of the major fear tactics of the media is to make you fear public scrutiny.
Right.
Because if you don't fit into society, then what do you have left? You know what I mean?
And not only that, they don't want you to ask questions. They make you feel wrong for seeking out knowledge.
Absolutely.
And you know, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so don't even get me started.
You came to the right place. Me and him are the conspiracy
But
brothers.
They don't even. Great day for black folks of all races. Undercover brother?
Huh?
Undercover brother?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Conspiracy brother.
Yeah.
No, they don't even try to hide what they do anymore.
No.
It's blatant in
It's
your
blatant.
face,
Yeah.
you know
It's
what I mean?
everywhere.
And if you're not willing to acknowledge that it's happening, you're naive.
Right. But that's what they want. They want it's almost like a way of saying like you consent to it because we're showing you and you still do nothing.
Right.
You give us consent to do this.
Well, here's the thing. We're gonna. I don't know if you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe.
I saw the movie, but I never read the book.
So it's like we had the plans because they destroyed Earth, and they said we had the plans in the office, the
Right.
planning office, and you never came down and saw. So they're telling you what
Right.
they're going to do,
Right.
but you don't vote, you don't
Right.
get involved, you
Right.
don't speak your voice, you don't do this,
Right.
you don't do that.
Right. I'd often say this. Part of it too is I realize that what it is if you close off your say I disagree with this guy, but I don't want to hear his views. I only want to listen to this guy. You're gonna constantly, because for me it's like I started like listening to people that I was taught not to listen to.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear what they say. Now I don't
Exactly.
agree with them, but it started giving me insight on why.
Right.
You know.
It's like Daryl David, or what's his name? The dude.
You got it right.
No,
Daryl
no,
Davis.
Daryl Davis. You ever hear of Daryl Davis? The dude that he converted like.
He's a black man.
He's a black man that converted over 200 KKK like
Oh, okay.
members.
Befriended them
He befriended them, and then like they denounced the KKK
Okay.
because of him.
because of him.
Because of him.
But he talks about that how like because he used to go to Klan rallies,
Yeah.
like and
They would
really
invite him,
see.
yeah.
He would invite him. He became friends with a lot of like grand wizards and all this stuff, and he would get them to leave the KKK.
And through their friendship, and he caused them, like when they would give them the theories of why black people were inferior or
Right.
why, he would turn it on them, and they
Right.
couldn't answer it.
Right.
They would
and-
just talk.
right, and that's the thing. Well, they say in science the best way to prove your theory is to try to prove it wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what you're supposed to do
Right.
as a scientist.
Right.
We've lost that.
Right, and it's the same thing, like you said. You know, in Muslim thing. Have you read the Quran?
Right. No one had. No, all these people that are
Right.
bashing Islam have not read the
Or
Quran.
have you read the Bible?
Right. Right.
Have
Let's
you read
start
the
there.
Bible?
Let's start there.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You call yourself a Christian, but you've never read the book that you supposedly base your faith on.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
How many people have read the Bible back to back?
Not many. I have.
Right. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you can't call yourself a Christian if you haven't done it.
Right.
And the other thing I think too is we have lost the ability to have two separate points of view, be able to discuss it as adults.
Yeah. If you don't agree with me, you're my enemy.
Listen to what you
Yeah.
got to say.
Right.
And we don't have to leave
don't
at the
have
end of
to
the day.
agree.
Agree.
Yeah. But don't kill me.
I'm going to shake your hand and respect your
Yeah.
point of view.
Right.
We've
Exactly.
lost that.
Right.
First of all,
We got to call names. Oh, you're a snowflake. You're this. You're that.
it becomes too emotional. We've become so emotionally attached to these ideologies. Instead of saying like, for me, if I have a conversation with someone for like, I'm a Christian, but for someone who's like of the Muslim faith, and they talk to me about the tenets that they believe in, they talk to me, and I have a serious conversation with them, I leave that conversation respecting them more as a man because of the discipline that they have. Like I'll tell Christians sometimes, he's more of a
Christian-
believer. He's more of a believer than you are.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. Even at the end of the day, if I still have that same opinion, at least now I know
Right.
that my thought process was in line with what I thought it was,
Right.
because I heard out of the horse's mouth
Right.
the way you think. It's
And-
not an assumption.
And not wanting to hear it is only fear and insecurity in your
That
own
you might be
beliefs.
wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's where the emotion comes from. Though.
Right,
It's the fear. You know.
Right.
And
Not
that's
wanting
what
to be
keeps you-
challenged.
But that's why I said the ideology is in the judgment because of fear to stay comfortable with where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just keeps. There's no love.
Yeah.
No love.
And that's the thing. There is no. And going back to the whole Christianity thing, you know, you claim to be a Christian, and there's so many things that are supposed to be Christianity and Christian tenets.
Yeah.
And this might offend people, but in my opinion, the biggest problem with Christianity is not the religion; it's the Christians.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And the churches.
And the churches. You know, the Bible is a very logical book from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's a constant.
It's proven.
And it's a constant retelling of the same
Right.
process.
The bottom line is love.
Mm-hmm.
Love. That's it.
Right.
Well, for a long time, too, people didn't really read it to understand it. They were just kind of repeating what someone was telling them.
Right.
So they kind of got stuck on certain tenets.
Well, we
and they
talk
never
about
go
that
further
all
on
the
it.
time too. That there's the Christian when Christianity got hijacked, by the Catholic Church.
People couldn't
That
read.
fake
them.
tell how it is.
You know what
man.
I'm saying? Like people weren't allowed to be to read.
Well, it was
You
in
were
Latin.
burnt. You were burnt for reading the
exactly.
Bible.
You were killed. You weren't allowed to own a Bible.
Right.
So and then it was in Latin, so you had to know Latin to be able to read it in the first place. So there was this huge disconnect between the Word of God and the average practicer of Christianity. Because you had to go to
Yep.
the priest.
They
You
were the
had
only
to
ones
go-
who can discern it.
Yeah. And then you had to confess your sins to them. So it was this entire separation between you and God. So now you're looking at centuries later,
Yep.
where we're trying to figure we're like kids without a father that are
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out.
But and I think to speak to your point too, I think a lot of the problems with modern Christianity is that they have been so indoctrinated that anything that is not quote unquote Christianity is wrong. It's the devil. It's
Right.
this. It's that. But for centuries there's been this like fluidity between different ideologies that all fall. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's not one dogmatic line in the sand type thing, and people don't really want to believe that's how things were.
Yeah, you have to look at it like a tree. Everything is rooted in truth, right? And then there's all of these branches that kind of ended up coming out and going in different directions, and it's about figuring out how that all leads back to the truth.
And yeah, I mean, because you think about it, think, how many slaves the Bible was used to reiterate slavery.
Oh yeah,
It's written in
absolutely.
the Bible. It says here, look, love thy master.
It was used as a tool to
Right.
keep
They can take
people,
anything
keep
in.
people in
Right,
bondage.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's. I think people don't do the research and read.
Well, it's like for us, like when we try to explain that the days of the week, the months, the holidays you celebrate are all pagan.
All of them.
And when you try to break that down, or you try to have a conversation, you run into a lot of resistance because people are tethered to that thing, and they don't even want to listen to you. Because you're like, wait, Easter, Christmas, all these holidays we celebrate are tied to paganism.
Right.
Where did it come from? The names, the days of the week, the months, all of them, like
That's Roman Gregoric things.
Yeah.
right. So let's get into that, and people run away from that
Yeah.
because they've heard enough and they want to stop.
Right.
They don't want to go further. And then, like you said, you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist because now you're
Right. And
That's another hijack term, though.
right. and a lot of things that people have this. Oh my God, that's mysticism. That's spiritism. It's really not. It has nothing to do with that. It's the total opposite of that, actually. And if you were to educate yourself on those things and find out about them,
Right.
you know what I mean. It has nothing to do with that.
right.
And people just
I remember I was struggling with like what happened with 9/11 and all this kind of stuff and prices, and because 1999, I graduated high school in 1999. Surplus, the economy was doing great, off to college, and then all of a sudden, boom, and the
Yeah.
world was in this place, war and thing. And I remember years later, discovering the internet and getting on there. And I remember hearing this speech by a guy called Manly P. Hall, who was a Freemason. And he had something called the 5 steps theory. And the 5 steps theory is like, we're at 1 right now. We go all the way to 5, and we step back 2.
Right.
We're at 3. We're 2 steps ahead of
Right.
where we needed to be.
Right.
But
You tell people we're going to take you 5 steps in this direction.
And
They
scream.
they complain, and then you say, all right, well, we'll go 3.
And they're like,
"Oh,
thank God.
you.
Thank God.
But now you're 2
They're
steps.
they're where they needed to be.
Right.
They're
That's
where
where
they
you
needed
wanted
to be.
to go in the first place.
That's
right.
where we needed to be. And you're like so thankful that we're not at 5, we're at 3. But they're 2 steps ahead of where they needed to be.
Right.
And I remember hearing it and I was like, how come I never heard this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is how these people or the powers that be rule this thing. You know, and I was like, man, that shook me up for a long time.
Order out of chaos.
Yeah, I didn't understand. And I right then and there when he said it, because he's given a lecture. This is a lecture in 1921.
Right.
And he's giving a lecture to his peers, and he's breaking it down to them how it's gonna work. And I'm like, it's working right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look at it like the Freemasons. Who
Yeah.
are they?
Yeah.
What do they do? And who was a Freemason? And
Oh, Right,
right,
looking
right.
Into all of that.
Oh, yeah.
then
Right, right.
That's a whole other issue.
Right,
Listen,
right. All the
We've
founding
been
fathers
down
were
them
them.
roads for years.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
the
but-
basic thing of like just Babylon, you know,
Yeah.
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 and the word, which is Babylon, is just Babel, but it's in the Hebrew, it's a bet lamed, right? So bet means like house or household. So you have household and household, right? Household of heaven, household of earth together. But the household of earth is, lamed means to be led away. So the household of earth is being led away from the household of heaven. You know, that's the point of Babylon. Babylon. It's about separating the 2 households. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that you can go into confusion and then you can be
Right.
led into it. You know what I mean? This is the way.
Yeah.
And that's what it's always been.
Right.
It's that and that's what most leaders do too. They
Right,
try
right,
to
right.
lead you
Right.
in their own way and then say, okay, we're going to give you this. And then, like you were saying, they try to take it
to the
wait
extreme. Yeah.
to the
Right.
extreme
Yep.
and then, hey,
Which
but
is
wait
like
a
gas
minute.
prices. You know,
I was
raising up
thinking
the,
the
Yeah,
same
they'll raise up
thing.
to $4
Yeah.
a thing. Oh my God, it's $4. They'll bring it down to $3.
Yeah.
Thank God it's 3 now.
Right.
Yep. But it was
Right,
at
right.
1.
It was at 1 2
Yeah,
weeks ago,
right,
but nobody's
right,
worried
right,
about that.
Right. Right. We're so happy to get 2
Right.
or 3.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, Master beat me 15 times last
Yeah.
week. You only beat me 5 today, so
Right.
I'm doing good.
I'm doing all right.
You still
Right,
whip
right.
your ass.
Right.
But, you know, so going what you're saying, though, and I think that that's where, you know, that message of love, like, so you disregard all that other stuff and work on, like, genuinely, you know, loving and showing compassion and empathy. The things that, you know, if you believe in Jesus, those are the things that Jesus taught.
Well, he said, the dude asked him, you know, which commandment is the best commandment?
Love thy neighbor like you love yourself.
Well, love God first,
Right.
and then love your neighbor. Yeah, like you love yourself.
Right.
Right. Both things. If you master those 2, everything else will fall in place. Because if you love God unconditionally, then you'll not want to make those mistakes to be outside of the grace of God or outside of the, you know, the love of God. And if you love your neighbor, you're not gonna lie to him. You're not gonna steal from him. You're not gonna murder them. You know what I mean? If you can really master those things, so everything falls under that umbrella of love, like you were saying.
Right. And you know, even depending on your view of, you know, God or however you view that, you know, you can look at it as too. It's a genuine. Everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we are all one.
Right.
So, you know, if I don't have the utmost respect and compassion, empathy for everyone around me, it doesn't work, because me disrespecting you is disrespecting me, because I am you and you are me. You know, we're all one. We're all one. You know, Buddha says you can't take the water out of the wave. So, you know, it's all the same.
Yeah. All right. I think we hit at like 2.5 hours. All right.
What's
so
up to Gina,
Who else we got in there?
Steve?
Jake was not
Burger.
up on the chat at
No,
all.
it hasn't been. Simone was the one who was.
Yeah, I know,
talking,
but
like-
you didn't read none of his comments.
And you guys were flowing.
No, that was a good one. So let's let everybody know where they can reach you, they can find your stuff one more time.
Jason Moss, personal chef at. So I just totally blanked. I'm sorry. Jason Moss, personal chef on the web. Jason Moss, personal chef on Facebook. Jason Moss recipes on Instagram, and email is jasonmosspersonalchef@gmail.com.
And they can hire you. People can book you and hire you.
Book me through jasonmosspersonalchef.com or also the email. You can hit me up on Messenger on my Facebook. Yeah.
And you got the book coming out?
Look for my book coming out soon, hopefully. Working through publishers right now.
Yeah.
And check me every Wednesday at 1:30 on RVN TV. That damn cooking show, the art of eating well.
Yeah, check this brother out, man, because he's got a lot of good stuff to say, and I'm interested to taste your food. I want to see.
Yo, listen. So I asked if I was cooking today, and they said no.
They said no?
Yeah, your girl Yvette said no.
Yeah, that's my cousin.
Yeah, so you need to talk to her.
Shout out to Yvette too for hooking it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I'll have you guys on my
it's
show
all right.
and I'll cook for you.
Yeah, we'll come on your show
and
you can cook some food for us. So we'll have fun with that. Hey guys, we appreciate you watching once again. Everybody that made it this far. We will be back next week. In the meantime, make sure you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/youngliontv. Support the podcast. Become a Young Lion. Become a member. Sign up. If you want merch, chatan.com for music, merch, all that good stuff. Anything else? I think we're good. We'll see y'all next week. We're out of here.
Young Lion, go live, yeah. Young Lion.